to Knoxville, don't be late. Baker's Live, it's gonna be great. June 5th and 6th, mark your date at Dollywood, we'll celebrate. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. Rides, fun, and meet and greet. Baker and pals, the crew's so sweet. Get ready for laughs, cheers, and thrills. Knoxville's the place, it's giving chills. Meet Baker and more cool friends. Live show magic that never ends. Come to Dollywood, feel the vibe. With great people there, it's gonna be a ride. June 5th and 6th, don't miss the fun. Meet Baker and friends, it's second to none. Baker and friends, it's second to
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what, if any, you might be. And welcome to day 4 in the Collin Griffith trial. And they're fiddling with their microphones. That's why something is in the background. I'll just mute it for you. And this is the case with the son who unalived his dad in self-defense. A year later, stabulated his mom in the neck. The first 2 days, I was kind of like, come on now, this is too easy. And then we watched videos. Well, we didn't watch it. We listened to it on Friday, where every time we heard him, he was kind of calm, saying, I don't want to be with her. It's going to end bad. I don't want to be there. And she was constantly lying and claiming that he was breaking his court orders, that he couldn't be with his grandma, even though there was a ruling. Is it enough to keep him out of prison? I don't think so. But clearly there was failure upon failure upon failure in the system. This boy clearly didn't want to be there. He had other options. The DCF, the police knew about all of this and still put him back in the home. So I'm still pretty sure he's going to be found guilty, but as I always say here in Denmark, the only job you can't get fired from is a government job. No matter how much failure you make, you'll just work your way up the ranks, because it's about tenure. It's not about performance. And it seems like this is the case here. It was the same problem in the Adam Montgomery case. Well, a convicted felon, yeah, let's give him the 4 just turned 5-year-old daughter, because it'll be fine. Oh, they're living in a car. No problem. I'll just drive to a parking space and wave at them and say everything is fine. So I think there is. Oh, what?
Yes.
Are they gonna rest?
Yes.
Is the state gonna rest?
Actually, Mr. Hendry will be making the arguments.
Sorry, thank you all so much for coming and saying hi, but I got what the. I have no more sound than you do. They didn't turn the sound on for the room, but I could just see. I could only hear. So.
Your Honor, this time the defense moves for a judgment of acquittal on both counts. I will work with the kidnapping charge first.
Could you hear the last? I will move for an acquittal. You can't see. Then you must be behind because I can see it on the live feed screen. You can hear it? Good. The state is going to rest. First of all, they never ever talked about the kidnapping charge. Other than those two old people who saw them walking into the house together. Yeah, it's low in my end too, and I have the direct feed. Hey, Anya. Hey, Laura. So this is a surprise. I thought they talked about last week they had a couple of more witnesses. Oh, Gwenny, that's because you have to open your eyes. You're sleeping still. That's why you can't hear it. I don't disagree with you at all, Saw Girl. Don't disagree with any of that. This guy is clearly troubled. My only problem is, as always, this is not what he's brought up on charges for. And the state have to prove it. But let's see where the judge takes this.
The state's charge of kidnapping. First, kidnapping is a specific intent crime, which means that at the time the alleged kidnapping took place, it had to be the intent to kidnap. And typically, the intent is to commit something else. So it's charged right now that the intent was to either further the commission of another felony or to harm or terrorize the victim. Now, as far as the evidence that has been presented in this trial about the kidnapping, we have essentially the two neighbor witnesses who presented any testimony whatsoever about the kidnapping. Both witnesses describe Kathy Griffith as angry. They describe her as, stomping around in the yard, throwing things into a car. The first witness described her swinging her arms around a lot, both away from Collin and as she approached Collin, and even up until she was so close that Collin could reach out and touch her. So at that moment, we have the testimony, which seems to align between both witnesses, that Collin grabbed his mother. She exclaimed, according to witness 1, "Let go, you're hurting my hair." Witness 2 did not hear anything. And then, although it has been argued that Collin dragged her into the house, the actual testimony from the witnesses was that the two went into the house. So if we pause it right there, at this point, we have what is arguably a misdemeanor battery. We have what could be a defensible touch on Collin's part, that he, in response to his mother swinging his arms in his face, reached out and grabbed her. And whether or not he had the right to do so, either way, it would either be a defensible battery or a misdemeanor battery. When examined on cross-examination, neither witness said that they heard Kathy exclaim anything about not wanting to go into the house. They did not see her fighting to not go into the house. They saw her legs moving. They saw her go into the house with Collin. And that moment is what has been alleged and the only evidence that has been shown of a kidnapping. So at that point, Mr. Griffith's specific intent to kidnap has to have been completed. We do not have that in this case, Your Honor. We have not heard any evidence that there was any fight on Kathy's part, any unwillingness to go inside of that house in that moment. We know she didn't want to be touched at that time, that she said that "you're hurting me." We don't know if she was upset about him having his hands on her. We do know that he was touching her too hard, essentially, is the evidence that has come forward. And again, that would be a misdemeanor, which would not be sufficient in any case to charge a kidnapping with. So we move on from there. What evidence have we heard in this case that
Apparently, they are going to rest. So we are having a motion to dismiss charges. This is the defense lawyer arguing motions to dismiss.
is going to turn this from a misdemeanor battery to a kidnapping? Well, we ultimately have a deceased person in this house. We have, the fact that she is found in the house roughly an hour and 15 minutes after this incident occurred, with the yelling outside and the touch on the upper torso. And we have no evidence of what happened inside the house. We have no evidence that Kathy was not in that house, or wasn't in that house against her will, that she remained in that house against her will, that she was not able to move in that house. The only evidence we have of anything that happened inside that house is the body itself, with the forensic evidence that has come into play from that, and Mr. Griffith's 911 call. Mr. Griffith's 911 call states that there was an extended, prolonged fight, and that they ultimately, there's the accident that she fell on the knife. There is no
There's no real planning being discussed at all. It's the mom who goes to the house of the grandma and starts an argument. This kid wasn't answering the phone when she called him, and then she goes there. So I don't know what planning there was done. They haven't really talked about planning, but maybe I've missed it.
mention that fight started outside of the house, that it continued inside of the house, that it continued all the way up until the moment of her death. There is no evidence that she was dragged immediately from the porch into the house and murdered at that time, like the state may offer as an alternative. We have not heard that from any witness. We have not seen that in any evidence that has been presented. So again, the evidence of the kidnapping turns back to the misdemeanor battery, that she was touched, that she exclaimed upon the touch, and that she continued into the house without doing anything else to say that she did not want to go in that house. All of the case law on kidnapping gets into whether or not that the crime itself was completed, whether it was necessary to complete the other crime, if there is another crime that's charged. But all of it, every case, includes proof that the victim was held or moved against their will. And we don't have that in this case. So we are not even at the starting point of whether or not you should consider a phase-on test or anything like that falls under the kidnapping line of cases, because we have not heard a single piece of evidence that says that Ms. Griffith did not go inside of that house willingly. So for that reason, we are asking for a judgment of acquittal on the kidnapping charge. As far as the first-degree murder goes, Your Honor, the evidence that has been presented so far of premeditation is that Mr. Griffith had a conversation with his grandfather in which he said that he wants to kill his mother, that he wants to slit her throat, according to the witness. We have the testimony from the officers who stated that he said things like he wanted to kill her. We have the testimony of Mr. Griffith himself in the back of the car where he said that he could kill her. Again, other than Mr. Walantis' testimony, every one of those officers, every piece of body cam footage, every piece of car footage that we've seen is conditional. That if violence occurs, if she comes at me again, if anything, then premeditation does not override someone's right to self-defense. If it did, then every officer who ever acted with lethal force would be charged with a capital crime. They are trained to respond to situations, and they know how to respond to that situation. That knowledge does not create.
Hey, Jamie, state rested.
I was watching. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and
I don't feel like their case was complete. Like, I feel like we're missing so much.
I need a mental professional to talk about this kid.
Well, yeah, and I don't really think they focus too much on actually what happened. Do you? Because I don't really, really
what went
focusing
on
on
inside the house, I have no idea.
yeah, exactly. Like they didn't really have a great, evidence of like, this is what happened. He did these things. I don't know.
Yeah, and again, I am not saying this kid isn't a bad apple. I know people get a lot. I did 2 Karen Reed videos this weekend. I have had a lot of people yelling at me I'm an idiot. And it's not only Jamie and Marissa and Jemima. So I'm kind of in a mood right now, but the state needs to prove their charges. And And that's the same in every case, no matter what case, no matter. And I think this kid is clearly a trouble kid. Because what are the odds that both his parents attacked him and he had to self-defend himself out of it? It's astronomical. But in the end, it's what has been proven in court. He's going to be found guilty. I'm pretty sure of that because, again, he's been accused of a murder before and now his mom is gone. But I just don't feel we know enough about what happened in that house. And
well, yeah, and leading up to, because, you know, they're saying he planned this. They keep saying he planned this, but it's like they didn't really put anything out there that really tells me that that's what happened. And all the videos we saw of her, she has a lot of problems too. I mean,
yes.
I agree. Like, I think he is a very troubled kid, but he also had very troubled parents.
Yeah.
And you really learn your, you know, your attitude and your way of life around who you grow up around. So I think there's a lot of problems.
Can you read this message from Marissa?
Well, wait. Oh, well, he's out of parents too alive. Too soon?
Jamie, that's too soon. Come on now.
Well, no, but like, I mean, yeah,
no,
I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
and
just
again,
a lot of problems between him and his parents. Yes, it's such a coincidence that but we don't know enough about his dad to even know that side of the story.
No,
know.
absolutely not.
We got
But
to see what the mom was like, and I'm
yeah,
sorry,
and that's
but
a big problem.
she was
That's
a
where you
Looney Tune.
end with the mom yelling at him, "I'm coming to get you." This is where you end. Again, running a trial is storytelling. You need to build the perfect arc so when the defense takes over, they are fighting against the perfect history.
Yeah.
But I would have ended with the medical examiner, giving them the blood, because then you would forget the mom was screaming at him all the time. She was screaming at him for 2 hours in the videos we saw.
Yeah.
No, his grandmother didn't testify. The only one who testified was the granddad, who they never proved any of those 4 videos that was from the house proving he was going to do it. Or the granddad couldn't even show the evidence that she claimed she had that she would send to the police. And I don't know how the defense is going to attack this, but that could be the only possible way I can say, because again, we know it's a murder trial. We have seen enough trials. He's probably going to be found guilty, at least in a lesser included. But
yeah,
you can attack this with a whole heck of a reasonable doubt. So
well,
it
yeah,
could be that they're doing the Sarah Boone thing and waiting for a great rebuttal. Because the Sarah Boone case kind of kicked our ass because we thought the state was doing absolutely ridiculous in that one, and then they turned it around on rebuttal.
Exactly. I mean, they might, but no. Marissa said, didn't the grandma testify earlier? No, grandma hasn't been on the stand at all. It's just the 2 neighbors.
Yeah, the 2 biddies.
The older ladies. The 2 biddies. The 2 old biddies. Yeah, they yeah, and they weren't really great with the witnesses either, because I'm listening to them argue about the kidnapping thing, and I'm like, you're right. Like, none of them said, well, the state said she was dragged into the house, but that is not what any of the witnesses said. So.
But I was very surprised in the Sarah Boone case as well. And again, I don't know, Mr. Lean back. Did you see Hayden Willis, whatever, Will Smith, Hayden Smith headdress from the Grammys yesterday?
No, I did not watch
I don't understand famous people. That's why I'm happy that I have YouTube money. I'm not YouTube rich. He showed up with a house on his head.
Oh.
I don't understand people with money. But let's get back to this.
Premeditation. The fact that Mr. Griffith thought about what he would do in a situation where he felt that he was being threatened, and even took it as far as to how he would do it, does not create premeditation. That is not a crime. That can still fall within the realm of self-defense. The only piece of evidence that we have that would go against that
I haven't seen those pictures. Marissa, DM me.
Is that there's that he didn't have enough marks on his body. I mean, the state offered physical proof that he had injuries. They have argued that those injuries
Yeah, I saw
were
that. She's a
insufficient in
weirdo.
opening. We have not had any witnesses testify to the extent of Collin's injuries, what could have caused those injuries, what could not have caused those injuries. In order for this to be a first-degree murder, we have to have premeditation, which so far I do not believe the state has proven, and we have to have a waiver of self-defense in some way. If there's just a waiver of self-defense, if this was a fight that got out of control, I apologize, you have to.
Just like John's school keeps calling, but I'm wondering if there's an emergency.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
So his kids' school keep on calling.
The
Made
judges
that
school?
what
Yeah. Why?
Your Honor, I was speaking as to the if this were a fight that got out of control and Mr. Griffith had started that fight, then this is arguably second-degree murder, as would be charged. That this was something that was created inside of the moment, that the decision to kill did not require adequate reflection, and that this would be a second-degree murder. So we have I don't believe that the felony murder should be considered, because I don't believe that the kidnapping is sufficient to reach that. And there's been no evidence that the kidnapping was a continuous crime. Again, we have proof of her injuries showing that there was some kind of fight. We have proof of Mr. Griffith's injuries showing that there was some kind of fight. We don't have any proof that Mr. Griffith made a previous decision to kill in this moment, that this was orchestrated in any way by him. In fact, we have the opposite. We have Miss Griffith showing up at that house without permission to do so, being angry as soon as she gets there and never cooling off, according to the witnesses. At the time that she gets into his face, Mr. Griffith acts. From that moment forward, they go inside the house, and it's unclear what happened. We have no evidence. We have no forensic evidence that showed what happened inside of that house.
Of course, Marissa sends me a picture that's blurred out. Thank you, Marissa.
To show that this was something that was planned, that this was something that was thought out, and that this matched any kind of a decision that Mr. Griffith had made. If anything, it is more likely that this fight escalated once the parties got back inside. This fight escalated, that there was at some point, someone gets a knife, and then Miss Griffith ends up.
What does a house on? Literally, that he had a model of a house on his head as a hat. His head was in the front. It was weird. It's rich people. Don't. At least Diddy is open about him being weird.
Dead. And to me, that is the realm of a second-degree murder. That is a standard fight that goes too far, and that is what the jury should be considering. They have not had any proof, again, that would rise to the level of premeditation.
It depends on if you are defending yourself, then you can. It's again, the problem is I don't have what's going on in the house, and the ME said there was injuries consistent with a struggle, which could have been both ways.
They have not had any proof in this
But still, I think he's going to be found guilty.
crime that anything else would enhance this crime to a first-degree murder. This is a second-degree murder and a battery that happened beforehand. And it is arguably self-defense on either issue. But again, I will concede that by raising self-defense, we have created a circumstance where the jury has to make a finding of fact. So I'm not arguing that this entire incident can't be considered by them. I'm just arguing that it should not be a kidnapping, and it should not be under the felony murder statute, and it should only be a second-degree murder.
Interesting.
Or as it pertains to the kidnapping,
I think that's a good call, though.
from two independent witnesses, we saw and we heard that the defendant grabbed Kathy by the hair. He did that forcefully. And what did he do? He dragged her / pulled her in against her will as she was protesting and yelling loud enough so that one of the witnesses could
No,
specifically
that's
hear
not
from
what they said,
inside,
you
looking out the
liar.
window.
Already.
Stop, Collin, you're hurting me. At which point the defender dragged her / pulled her into the house, which was clearly forcibly, which was clearly against her will. And then once he had her inside, of course, he confined and or abducted her from outside into inside and or imprisoned her. The last place that she would want to be would be inside after being yanked inside by the hair by her son, who has told multiple people, obviously, his intention to kill her. When he's furious, when she had just sent him the text message regarding the other person.
When she had just sent him, it wasn't just sent, and she had threatened him multiple times that day. Why didn't he go back and unalive her then?
Yeah.
I don't like this guy. I have spent a weekend yelling about police people. Everyone who hasn't watched my video on the Greenberg case, you should really watch that. Thank you all for watching my Karen Reed stuff. That always does well. But that Greenberg case, that's crazy. That screams of bad prosecution and cover up, if any. But I just don't like these people. I'm sorry.
No.
That he murdered by shooting that person in the chest and in the head. And when she threatened to come forward and tell the officials in Oklahoma and elsewhere about the defendant confessing that it in fact was a murder, that it was not self-defense, and that he had planned it, the defendant's anger level was through the roof. So once he gets her inside, he has no prying eyes. He has no witnesses.
No, she used it as leverage.
Everything he wants to on his
She
mom.
didn't give a crap.
So once she gets yanked from outside to inside, and mind you, he had her by the hair, which there's no way she could get loose from that. So as he yanks her inside, once that door closes, that was clearly the beginning of the end for her. Now he's all alone with her, with no witnesses and nobody that could help her. And his intent was to inflict bodily harm upon his mom, or to terrorize her, and or to commit or facilitate the commission of the murder. Judge, once the defendant gets her inside, there's not going to be an hour and 15 minutes of these two people talking and having a rational conversation. It was an absolute powder keg that went off immediately. So the defendant, as we come out to the first degree murder, you can see the pathway by which the defendant pulled her by her hair, dominated her physically. He's 6'2", outweighs her by, who knows, maybe 30 pounds or so. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's younger. He had to go to the butcher block, take out the knife of his choosing, continuing on with the premeditation, and then stab her, not just any place, not just cut her, but stab her in one of the most vulnerable parts in the human body, which was right in the neck. And as we heard from Robert Volantis, the defendant accomplished exactly what he wanted to do for so long, which was to stab her / slit her throat, watch her bleed, and watch the life drain from her, which is exactly what he was able to accomplish with premeditation. So, Judge, I would rely upon the facts of the evidence and the whole record, and ask that you deny the defense's motion and allow the jury to consider both the kidnapping charge as well as the first-degree murder charge as we go forward, Your Honor.
Your Honor, as to some of the arguments just made, first off, there's been no evidence of anger in the moment on the part of Mr. Griffith. We have the evidence from the neighbor that he was calm, that Kathy was irate, that she was flailing around, and that he reached out, but that his demeanor did not rise. Like, he didn't start, there was no evidence of rage or anything like that. So I know the state keeps using those words. That's an argument on their part, but that is not the fact that has been shown in this case. As far as the decision to choose a knife, again, that's not a fact in evidence. As far as the decision to dominate her physically, well, we have evidence of bruising. So I guess I would concede that there was a physical altercation, and it looks like Ms. Griffith bore the worst of that. But I don't know that dominate physically is something that has been testified to in any way. Again, it's being argued by the state attorney. The size of Mr. Griffith that keeps coming in from the state's words, that he's 6'2", that he's some weight. We have that. We don't have any fact on Mr. Griffith's size. I mean, the jury has observations. They can see me standing next to him, and they can tell that he's much smaller than me. And I'll tell you, I'm not 6'2". So I don't think that that comes into play in a decision to, decide whether or not this was a premeditated murder. And as far as the kidnapping, again, the only evidence we have of Kathy's intent is when she shows up mad, when she's throwing things in his car. We have her intent. Yeah. And she had already gone into that house. I mean, she goes in, she comes out with stuff. That stuff was not sitting inside. So we have her not wanting to be pulled by the hair. But again, we don't have any proof that she was pulled by the hair. We have the autopsy of her body. We do not have a single shred of evidence that she was harmed in any way by a grasp to her hair. There's no.
Thank you for watching, Fedorowski. Great case. Going to be interesting. It goes to case today. Who said he was 6'2"? The prosecutor. Yeah, I like the arguments.
The bruising of her scalp, there's nothing like that has been shown. So she said, "You're hurting me loudly enough to be heard." That's a battery. She did not say, "No, don't take me in there. I don't want to go in there. Stop." She was not dragged. I asked the witnesses specifically if her feet were going up the stairs, and they said yes, that she was moving her own legs, that she went into that house. So I understand the state's argument that they are making, but it is argument. They are not using the facts that have been shown. And the fact is that this is not a kidnapping. This is a misdemeanor battery, and then a fight that happened inside, and that fight led to a death.
taking the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, as I must, hearing on motion for judgment of acquittal, I do find that the state has made a prima facie case as to each element of each offense. The motion is denied.
I feel the
Anything else we need
kidnapping
to
should have
discuss
been
before we
kicked out.
bring the jury
Yeah, the kidnapping should.
Should we usually do a jury instruction conference?
after everyone rests?
Okay.
Was there something in particular
No.
you wanted to address now?
No.
Are we ready for the jury?
I believe so.
That was the wrong ruling. The kidnapping should have been kicked out because they haven't
Thank you again for your service.
addressed that at all.
Mr. Levine,
Your Honor, the state rests.
the state having rested its case, what says the defense?
The defense calls Susan Detman to the stand.
Just a minute. If I hear raise your right hand, before I vote.
This is the
Ms.
grandma.
Detman, will you please introduce yourself to the jury and
You
spell
can
both
just
your
name
first and
him.
last name?
Susan Detman. Susan is S-U-S-A-N, and Detman is D-E-T-H-M-A-N.
Ms. Detman, how are you related to Collin Griffith?
I'm his maternal grandmother.
So your daughter was Kathy Griffith, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So give the jury a little bit of an idea of who the other members of your family are. Who was Kathy's father?
Robert Willantis.
Were you married at some point to Robert Willantis?
Yes, we were married for 19 years.
When did you divorce?
We divorced in 1998.
After you divorced Robert Willantis, did you get remarried?
Yes, I did.
Who did you get remarried to?
Inaki Markovich.
And you might need to spell that last name for the court.
M-A-R-K-E-V-I-T-C-H.
Ms. Detman, who are your children from your marriage to Robert Willantis?
John Paul Willantis, Kathy Willantis Griffith, and Christy Willantis Grooming.
Did you list them in ascending order of age, youngest to oldest?
The youngest to oldest.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have another child?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
Kevin Markovich.
And that's from your marriage to Mr. Markovich?
Yes.
Now, Kathy, obviously Collin was Kathy's son. Did she have any other children?
Yes, she had an older son. He's still alive, Christopher Gray Griffith.
How old is he?
He is 24.
I want to ask you a few questions about Robert Willantis, your ex-husband. When you divorced in 1998, who got custody of your 3 children with him?
I did.
And since 1998, has Robert Willantis been a big part of your life?
No, except for the custody battles we went through.
What about, are you aware of his relationship with any of the 3 children that you had with him?
He didn't have a relationship once. He was not granted custody of John Paul. He didn't want Kathy, considered Kathy to be damaged goods. He only sued for John Paul.
Okay, but what was his relationship like with his children after the
He didn't
divorce?
have a relationship at all until Kathy divorced and she reached out to her dad.
When did Kathy divorce her husband and the father of Collin and Christopher?
2019, if I remember correctly. It was like December of 2019 when they filed. And I think it took a couple months for the divorce to actually take place.
Now, we saw pictures of Robert Willantis on a trip with Kathy. Tell the jury about that trip, what you know about it.
So Kathy wanted to meet the biological Robert's mother, the biological grandmother, because Kathy had many medical problems. So she asked me, she said, Dad said he'll take me to California to meet his mom. They live in Anaheim. The mom lives in Anaheim, California, but you'll have to pay for it. And I said, okay. I said, just please try not to do anything too expensive. And I'll see what points I can use for the hotels. And fly over there. You guys don't need a rental car. You can use your dad's car if it can make it to California. If not, then we'll get a rental car.
So, Ms. Detman, did you in fact pay for Kathy to go on this trip with Robert Wolantis?
Yes. I paid for all the food, all the hotels, Disneyland, all of that.
And when was that trip?
That was before she got Collin back.
So before 2023?
Yes.
After 2019, though?
And after COVID was over with.
Okay.
So I believe it was 2020.
Probably the grandma. She had him staying at her house before.
22.
Are you aware of any other trips like that that Robert took with his other two children?
No, he didn't really have communication with them.
All right. So I want to ask about Kathy's funeral or celebration of life. Did the family hold such a thing for Kathy?
Yes, we had a celebration of life right here at the funeral home in Lakeland.
Was she actually buried or was she cremated?
No, she was cremated. She had conveyed to me as well as to her sister and brothers that she never wanted to be.
No, that's not what he said. He said, I'm going to my grandma's place because he didn't want to stay with his mom. It's a bit different. And the truth is, he was allowed by the grandma to stay there, to get away from the mom. Plus, they had shared custody over him, according to the documents. So he didn't say that. And even if he had said that he was going to visit the grandma, it would have been perfectly fine. The mom lied about him not being able to leave the county.
He put in the
detective
ground,
said
wanted
it
to
too.
be cremated, and later taken back to the ocean in Key Largo, and her ashes be put at the Jesus statue that we have under the water in Key Largo.
Has that been done?
No, we're going to do that this summer.
Where are Kathy's ashes right now?
Right now, they're at Christie's house.
Was Robert Wolantis invited to the celebration of life?
No, he was not.
Why not?
Robert tends to be very disruptive. He has difficulty with truthful manners, and we just did not want to have more lies and disruption. The final time that we could say goodbye to Kathy.
Robert is the granddad, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to ask you some questions now that may also be difficult. In the last roughly 2 months before Kathy died.
His story is supposedly that they got into a fight. She might have waved a pew. She might have come at him with the knife, and it was an accident. That's his story. But yes, she followed him. She weren't invited. We were listening to all the videos on Friday where she kept calling the grandma, kept calling the police, kept calling his job, kept calling him to say he had to come home, which there was no legal reason. She made up a lot of reasons.
What personal medical things were you going through?
So in the last part of June, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. I had to have part of my colon removed and an ostomy put in place.
After you were diagnosed and had your surgery, did you have a fight with Kathy over Robert Wolantis?
Yes, I did. Kathy was very adamant that she wanted Robert to take care of me, that I needed to pay for his flight from New Mexico to Lakeland, get a hotel for him for 2 weeks, and get some sort of a car, and even pay for his food. And I told Kathy, I said, that's ridiculous. He hates.
It's fine. I know you want to paint the mother as kind of an a-hole. Relevance? I don't know.
Me. I don't want to be hurt by him. Plus, has lost his nursing license. I want a real nurse that has.
Hang on.
Okay, hold on.
I'm not just projectile, but it's collateral accusations. The same.
Ms. Detman, as a result of you not wanting
39, and she's not reading, she's just looking down. She didn't have any papers with her when she went up there.
to follow Kathy's wishes as far as Robert Volantis coming here and taking care of you. Did that cause a break?
No, because they haven't really talked about. Only thing that could talk about murder was it was one stab through the neck and then a defensive wound type on the hand. They they painted it as he was planning everything, and in reality, it was the mom who. I could swing for a murder too on this one probably, because, but first degree planned. I can't see that.
Communication between you and Kathy.
Yes, she refused to talk to me. She blocked my phone. She told me if I came over to the house, she would have me arrested for trespassing. She said, you can contact Collin, but you can't contact me.
And that, okay, I'll move on from this. Mr. Volantis on the stand mentioned that Kathy got Collin a second phone, and that must have been what Collin used to talk with Mr. Volantis on the phone every week or every other week. Tell the jury what you know about a second phone.
The second phone, I purchased a second phone when Collin came to live with me in the January-February time period. The first time she threw him out, and I couldn't leave a kid in the double wide by himself without a phone. Plus, since I didn't
wait, hold on. Why didn't Collin have a phone with him when he went to live with you in January of
Hey, Mo Raiders. Welcome.
2024?
Because Collin and I were at the Mexican restaurant in Port Charlotte. Kathy and Collin and I were supposed to go. When I got there, Kathy said, no, I don't want to go. And I said, come on, at least have some nachos or something. No, I don't want to go. And I said, can I take Collin with me? Sure. So while we were at the Mexican restaurant, she called me and she said, don't bring Collin back. I never want to see you or Collin again.
And the phone that Collin had.
Well, so far he's only killed his parents, and you only have 2 of those, so everyone else is probably fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Jamie. As long as you're not Mexican from Texas, you're pretty secure at her house.
At that point, where was it?
It was at Kathy's house.
Okay, so you brought Collin.
Hello, all your Mole Raiders. Welcome to day 4 in the Collin Griffith case. The guy who unalived both his parents. State have rested. We are now on defense, and I have to pull this banner down.
To the double wide in Arbondale, and I didn't even have internet because, of course, I wasn't there all the time. So if I needed to, I'd hotspot my computer. I didn't want an extra expense for.
Because it's not Red Rum today, because someone complained about that, and now you're complaining about the opposite. That's no pleasing people.
Internet or cable or any of that. And so I realized I couldn't leave Collin here without a phone. So I told him, I said, we're going to have to go to AT&T and get a phone for you. And I even got a 786 area code because that's the area code that I have.
It doesn't look too much like his mom or dad. It's probably fine. Grow a mustache and you'll survive.
In the keys.
And that second phone, did Collin have possession of it from January of 2024 all the way up until September of 2024?
No.
You can't sue for defamation if it's the truth.
No. He only had possession of it for that small amount of time from when he came to, which would have been, it was either the end of January, the beginning of February. He had possession of it there. And then when he left, he took it, and I immediately got it by that week.
Okay, I'm actually going to show you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 16 and see if you recognize it.
No, I changed it because I think it looks enough like Red Rum that that people who doesn't know our language
See if you recognize those
won't think,
messages
what?
from January 2020.
Hey, again, loser. I was the top on Friday. Hello again, loser. CC is so great sometimes. Oh, Jamie, I know you don't watch my
Yes.
videos, but I really enjoyed that all these anti-Karen Read people, well, anti-Aiden people has
Do you recognize those?
it helps with the engagement. Oh my God!
According
yes.
to
No,
this,
okay, don't read it. Do you recognize those messages in between you and Kathy?
Thank
No.
missing
Okay.
previous rulings. Now Karen's guilty. That's not what it's about, you idiot.
Do you remember there being a period in January of 2024 where Kathy, where Collin was with you for several weeks and Kathy didn't remember that he had gone with you?
yes,
And do you know what was going on with Kathy at that time?
she was suicidal, taking pills. She just didn't want to have her life. She was drinking
Okay.
excessively. She drank Everclear as her alcohol of choice.
Okay, Ms. Bettman, just answer the questions, okay? You mentioned that she was suicidal in January. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 15. See if you recognize the subject matter of those texts.
Yes,
Judge would like to admit Defense Exhibit number 15 into evidence.
Objection?
No objection, Judge.
And received.
Ms. Detman, Defense Exhibit 16 stated February 5th of 2024, and the blue text at the top was Kathy's number 941-258-0963,
yes,
and were you the number below that?
yes, ma'am,
And you mentioned a 786 number, but you had two phones, correct?
yes.
Why did you have two phones?
I used one for work and one for personal.
So the blue message on top talks about Kathy just having been released from the ER for an accidental overdose. Was that one of the times that she had a suicide attempt?
Yes,
So the phone that you bought for Collin in either January or February of 2024, and I'm sorry if you already answered this, but he didn't keep that after the brief period that he lived with you then, did he?
he went home with it and I had it back on the weekend.
Okay, so shortly after he went back home to Kathy.
Yes,
So Kathy, it sounds like off and on had estrangement from various family members.
yes,
You mentioned that you and she didn't speak for quite some time after your cancer diagnosis.
Thank you, Paula B, for becoming a member.
Had she cut other members of the family off at other times in her life?
her and John Paul were not speaking.
Do you know why?
Yes, she got mad at his wife because the house wasn't clean to her standard. And she said, I'm gonna call.
Everclear is like pure alcohol. I
Yeah.
think it's like
It's like
96%.
200 proof. It's like rough.
Yeah, that's don't drink it unless you want to get drunk.
DHS, which in our state is
Have the
Child
hangover
Protective
of lifetime.
Services, that Isabella was not taken care of, that she was in danger, something. I know DHS ended coming up to John Molantes' house. Of course, the investigation proved that there wasn't a problem. And John just said, I will never have anything to do with her again. She crossed the line.
Any other family
Celestial, go frolicking for half an hour and then come back.
estrangements from Kathy besides you and her brother Don?
So Kevin and Kathy were supposed to go to Washington, D.C. together.
Kevin is your son with
Yes, and Kevin
Inaki.
and Kathy were pretty close. They were supposed to go to Washington, D.C. together because Kevin was in officer basic training in Virginia for the Florida National Guard. He just graduated from college, and he had time off during the 4th of July. And Kathy said, it'd be great if Collin and I could meet up with John Paul in Washington, D.C.
Do you mean Kevin or?
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin could meet up. I was supposed to go because, of course, my cancer, I couldn't.
Ms. Volantis, I'm sorry. I know you're nervous, but the estrangement,
Yes.
how that
So what
occurred.
happened is Kathy contacted Kevin and said, unless you help me get your father arrested, meaning Inaki Markovich, I don't want you coming to Washington, D.C. with me.
Do you know what?
I grew up in a family where my dad and my uncle only talked to each other if we were at my grandma's house, because my uncle was a POS and my mom was a only child, and so I couldn't imagine having a family where someone is trying to threaten her siblings to get someone arrested. And Halloween's must have been fun at that house. Or Thanksgiving. What are you grateful for? Caddy make me lock up our brother. It's
All of them sound.
yeah, all of them sounds like a-holes. I'm just
Yeah.
No, this is the first witness for the defense. The state just arrested. Well, it's not only Florida, because they are in D.C. and Oklahoma and New Mexico. It's all over the place. So I think there's been a lot of stress put into this family from the mom, and we could hear her on the phone calls. I think she clearly had some issues.
Yeah.
Kathy was referring to as far as helping her get your husband arrested?
Yes, they had had an altercation in our farm in Arcadia during COVID. So it was during 2020, around Easter time. It's before Easter. She threatened him with a baseball bat. And she said she was going to get her gun and shoot him. And my husband brought a shotgun out and said, I have a shotgun here. We're not going to be doing this. And later she said that he used the shotgun, fired the shotgun. And I said, it was a double wide. I think I would know if a shotgun had been fired in the ceiling in a double wide.
Okay. So after that interaction between Kathy and Kevin,
Yes.
were they estranged from each other for a while? But it sounds like she would kind of change her mind about who she was close with or wanted to have communication with. Is that?
Yes, because she called Kevin the next day and said, I'm sorry, come on to Washington, D.C. with us. And Kevin said, I already told my cadre, my leave's been canceled.
Okay.
And Kevin
you
is
aware
her
of-
new husband, right? Or like the current husband.
Kevin is
making
grandma's. Kevin is grandma's husband.
Okay, yeah, that's what I meant. Like grandma's husband. Okay, so she was threatening him too.
Yeah, Susan and Kevin, I think, are married.
Yes.
Kathy is Susan's daughter, and Collin is Susan's son.
Sometimes the names just get thrown around and I forget who's
Yeah.
who. But I
No,
remember
no,
Kathy. Collin.
Kevin is Kathy's half brother.
Oh, then who is
So it's her
'cause
son. It's her son is Kevin.
I'm confused. What was the new husband's name then? I don't know. Anyways, forget it.
Yeah. Well, I don't retain information.
Threats that Kathy had made to commit suicide.
Yes.
How many are you aware of, if you know?
Aware of 5.
Okay.
No, 6.
Well, she has a shit follow through then.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 14. see if you recognize this.
Yes, I do.
I'd like to admit Defense Exhibit 14 into evidence, please.
Objection?
No objection, Judge.
To be received.
So let's do this together.
Okay. Thank you.
Collin is the unaliver. He's down here. Then we have Kathy. That's the mom. And Susan, that's her mom. And then you have Nikki Markovich, which is
Current
Robert
husband.
Valantis is husband number 1, and this is husband number 2. And
Okay.
then Kevin is Kathy's half sibling,
Gotcha.
and Colin's step uncle. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of
Well-
it makes sense if you don't think about it, Jamie.
It's a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jemima, for the visuals.
What is this exhibit?
I wasn't sure if Kathy showed that to me. I wasn't sure if it was blood or magic marker
Uncle,
because
half uncle,
I didn't
whatever you
see
call
it
it.
physically. She said that it had something to do with a song she was listening to.
No, because it's the mother's brothers. That's an uncle.
And she was
We don't call it half siblings in Denmark. We call them step siblings.
upset because of the divorce.
And you can't quite see it now, but did you see a video of, so you can see the triangle for play. Had you seen the actual video of this?
Yes.
In it, can you see what's written on the left side of Kathy's arm? I mean, you can't see it right now, but do you remember what it said?
I don't remember what it said because it was just so horrific that that she was doing this to herself.
Agree that Susan is Kevin's mom. Whatever else, whatever else we'll fight over when I go to Tennessee. I'll rent the midget wrestling ring and we'll go round.
Yeah, step here is different than what you guys have. Step means no blood relation. Half is half blood relation.
Have you actually called?
Yeah, we say half brother, but I have half brothers because my mom had a new husband, but if they come in and they have, it's your dad and another woman's kid, you will call them stepchildren.
Yeah.
Because they are not related to you, but they are related.
By
Their dad
marriage.
came into your house and just ruined everything with those redheaded kids of his.
Yeah.
Hey, talking about redheads. Hi, Lefty.
Hi, Lefty.
Law enforcement on occasion when
doesn't
Kathy
have
made
hair.
suicidal statements to you.
Yes.
All right. So you said you know of about 6 threats. What about actual attempts by Kathy to kill herself? Or was that the 6 and I misunderstood?
Those were the 6 attempts.
Okay. Can you describe some of those for the jury?
Yes. So the first one was while she was still married and she was very upset and she had overdosed on her trazodone. And she told me, I was in Key Largo and she lived in Key Largo at the time. And I said, I'm gonna have to take you in right now to emergency room. You're gonna die. And she said, no, I'm not going in.
Ms. Stepman, it's okay. You don't have to give all of those
I'm
details.
sorry.
That's all right. I understand. So that was one attempt. What about other attempts that you're aware of?
So the second attempt was when she was in Port Charlotte. I had to go over the fence and open the sliding glass door. And she was in her bed, all dressed in black, and with a revolver in her hand.
And had she done anything with any medications that
Yes, she
time?
had overdosed on the oxycodone.
did she end up going to the hospital that time?
Yes,
Any other attempts that you remember?
yes. There was another attempt with oxycodone again, about 4 months later. Then there was an attempt with medication and Everclear. The second attempt, she went back to the emergency room and was admitted vapoactive. The third time, when I called Port Charlotte Police, they got there and said, she appears fine to me. If she wants to drink in her own house, that there's nothing we.
She doesn't read anything. She didn't bring any notes. I think it's just, again, I don't want to be here mode.
She was very nervous, so she's just been looking down. She's not reading anything.
Well, she did have a history of ODs. Even the state admitted that. But I now know why the state didn't bring this one.
Can do. And then the most recent time was just in August of this year, August 21st. She called me and said she had overdosed on metoprolol, heart and blood pressure medication, because the other ones didn't work. So she said, I did that. And I said, have Collin take you to the ER. No, I don't want to go. Have Collin take you. Finally, I talked Collin into taking her to the emergency room.
So, to your knowledge, Collin was home when she overdosed and actually had to drive her to the
Yes.
emergency room in August of 2024.
Yes.
You mentioned that Kathy had been Baker acted. Was that more than one time?
Yes.
The jury has heard a lot about some things that Kathy claimed that were maybe not true. How would you describe Kathy's reliability or her reputation for truthfulness?
Objection, Your Honor.
Judge, can we go sidebar?
Didn't she object against the grandpa talking about truthfulness? So if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. To show she has a history of mental illness and could be the one who attacked Collin.
Yeah.
Remember, they are here to sow reasonable doubt that maybe it was true that it was self-defense because she attacked Collin.
Yeah, it shows her mental instability.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if you have to try 6 times and you can't, look at that Greenberg case. She tried once. She even succeeded in stabulating herself after she passed away. That's commitment, Jamie. You should have the same commitment to your job as she had.
I'm doing just fine.
Well, I just think that it's nice that she severed her spine and still kept on stabulating until she was passed away. And then kept stabulating after she passed away.
That is something.
Doesn't seem like anything could be amiss in that case. I love that it was ruled a homicide, then a suicide, then a potential homicide again. How did you get to that conclusion? With a severed spine, she still kept doing it.
Yep.
I'm no spinalologist, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. Hey, Zachariah. Yeah, she was, especially if it's true that she stabulated through her skull and into the brain, and then still kept going. Young people today, they just don't want to put any effort in. That lady, it's going to be interesting to see what the ruling will be. That case seems very sus.
Sounds like it.
It was 10 out of 20 were to the back, and more than one of them was post-mortem. So, yeah, it's not a fun thing, but that's sadly how it is with all the coverage. Jamie, it's Monday. I feel like I was run over by a herd of crickets. What should I do? And do you have some extra toothpaste? I'm out.
Toothpaste?
Yeah.
I don't have any to share.
No. And I'm pretty sure that it's just a lie. He has more.
So it's gonna be a long trip for just to borrow some toothpaste.
I know some people who know some people, just like Irish. But I know a person who works in a mental hospital. They had a patient who tried to self-delete on the mental health hospital, got released the day after. Because they are really ready to get out.
Ms. Detman, I'm going to go through some individual things and ask you about them, okay? First, I'm going to approach with defense exhibit number 17.
Because she wanted him to stay there. She had shared
He was
custody
forced
with
to.
her grandma. And that's why he was at the double wide he was at. But she kept forcing him to come back or wanting him to come back. And he said, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be together with her. It's going to end horrible. He was getting away from her. She went looking for him.
As it's been marked. Just read it and see if you recognize it as being a text from Kathy to you. Do you recognize?
Yes, I do.
I'd ask that defense exhibit number 17 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
It is received.
In this text from June 27th of 2024, Kathy says that she was here and pressing charges, going to 77 Hewlett Drive. That's your address, correct?
That was the address in Auburndale.
To check on you and to pick up Inaki for charges of attempted murder and assault against you. Meaning she's claiming that Inaki actually tried to murder you, correct?
Yes.
Is that true?
No,
No,
he's
no.
never tried to murder me.
16, 17, just around that age.
So that's something that Kathy threatened and claimed that just simply wasn't true, right?
Exactly. Yes, yes,
Has she done that on other occasions, make things up?
yes, yes. She made up that I was diagnosed with Lynch disease, which is it's an auto-recessive disorder where people have to have, they're more prone to cancer. So she said that her insurance company was forcing her to have a hysterectomy because of that. She also told Christy, and Christy was so distraught.
Okay, Ms. Detman, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. I understand. So she made up that you had a disease that you do not in fact have.
No, I
Grandmother.
verified with my oncologist that I didn't have.
She also made up that John Paul Volantis had been.
I couldn't tell what this disease, but something that kind of makes you more susceptible to cancer. So yeah. Oh, you shouldn't feel safe here. Sex around. Ooh.
Neglecting his child, right?
Yes,
Has she ever made anything up about Robert Volantis?
yes.
What did she make up about Robert Volantis?
When she was younger, she said that Robert raped her.
And how do you know that that's not true?
It went to court, so I don't know. I only.
Did she ever tell you that she had made it up?
Oh, yes. Later, as an adult, she told me she had made that up.
Did she say why she made it up?
Yes, because she was mad at the situation between Robert and I.
Okay.
She's the first witness for the defense, so probably yes. And why would the family court award Kathy custody knowing she was not a fit parent? Go back. I covered a case called Adam Montgomery. Go back and watch that, and then come back and say, if you're surprised that family court would give children to a non-fit parent. But the family court did split the custody between the mom and the grandma, is because there were so many troubles. But we're talking about a person who is a known attempted self-deleter who has been Baker acted multiple times, and CPS said that'll be fine.
Has she ever made anything up about her being responsible for everybody else's successes in the family?
Yes, she went as far to say that no one in the family would have any of their degrees, and that she, in fact, the only reason that I got my doctorate was because of her.
Okay. And did she actually make a threat to you regarding this
Yes,
belief
she
she
did.
had?
She said she was going to, when she was mad at me one time, she said she was going to contact the university where I work at, and I said, go right ahead. No, I had to.
What did she tell you she was going to
She said
say
she's
to
going
them?
to call the university, my dean, and tell him that she did all of my coursework and that I didn't do anything and that I was a phony.
Did she make up at any time that you're aware of that Collin was failing school?
Yes, she said that he had been failing school and that when he was staying at my house, that it was my fault because I wasn't observing him on the computer to make sure he was doing his work.
Was Collin ever failing to your knowledge?
No,
When did Collin graduate from high school?
he graduated last June.
Was that actually ahead of schedule?
Yes, that was a year ahead of schedule.
And did he, in addition to graduating early, did he ever, did he get college credit?
Yes,
At the
he
same
was
time.
dually enrolled in college.
You mentioned earlier that you had paid for some trips, the trip for Kathy to go visit Robert Willantis and meet his mother.
Mhm.
Did you pay for other trips for Kathy?
Yes, the cruises that they went on, I paid for.
And the other trips that the jury has seen pictures of Kathy and Collin, who paid for all of those trips?
I did.
Did you also have, you mentioned points and using points for things.
That's our DVC, our Disney Vacation Club, as well as I have points through Hilton Honors.
Have you ever witnessed
Teacher
Kathy
at Dr. Sue.
not being able to control her temper?
Yes,
Can you describe some of those?
She's not reading off of something. She's just hanging her head in shame. I don't know why people this is the fifth time I've said she didn't have anything with her to the stand. She's just hanging her head in shame, retelling the story. She's not
And she
reading.
wouldn't be allowed to.
No, and she doesn't have a witness testimony up there because this isn't recalling facts. So there's no reason she should have cheat sheets. She's not reading. She's just hanging her head in shame, kind of like Zach does every time people ask to see his macro.
Those
yes.
times?
She went
Your Honor, if we may approach her a moment. Sidebar, the headset that Mr. Griffith is using is on mute somehow. I can't figure out how to unmute it. It doesn't appear to have any buttons on it at all, but I may not just know how it works. It indicates that it's on mute. It has like a little, that's the one I'm using.
Yeah, for sure. She wouldn't even be like the judge would have called her out for sure. They don't even let
Yeah.
the like detectives and stuff read the reports until they're like asked to.
Yeah, and the judge is sitting there right next to her, looking down on her, so it wouldn't happen. So I think she feels a lot of guilt in this situation because, again, she had shared custody. When this happens and you are losing a daughter and you're probably going to lose your grandson to prison as well, do you sit at home at night thinking, if I had just fought a little bit harder to get full custody, if I just 5% more. I could have both of them. I think that's something that a lot of people will, because you always have second doubt after. Have I ever tried Thai kickboxing? No, I did some karate back in the day. But I played football and handball. That was my games. Congratulations, Denmark. World champions in handball yesterday. You're welcome, Jamie. Oh, what? Oh, no, America didn't participate. They can't play handball. They have to put on gear to play on the field. Oh, don't touch us.
Oh my Lord.
We had one of our guys, he got punched right in the face while he tried to get into score. And that's 8.
Members of the jury, I'm going to ask that you step into the jury room for just a few moments and discuss the matter with the lawyers.
All right, please. There's a matter with the lawyers. All right, please. Yeah, we're caught up now because nothing happens. They have technical difficulties. Now they're kicking the jurors out because the lawyers have a problem.
Oh yeah, she's probably really distraught too of like, she was away of, you know, when this whole situation happened, she might have been able to help. But she was what, 6 hours away when all this happened?
Yeah. Yeah, and he was at her house, so he wasn't with her. So she probably thought, okay, it'll be safe. She'll just go around yelling as she always does.
Yeah.
The state has arrested, did it prove first degree and kidnapping? 50% says no, 24% says yes, 17% says first degree, yes, no kidnapping, 7% says first degree, no kidnapping, yes. So that's interesting. Thank you, Holly Mac, for gifting 5 memberships to Hell yeah, Forever Not Me, Christine Lady Archer, Rose Pajam, and Golden Girl. Gracias. Did we ever find out why they have to take a break?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Something about something being muted, but I haven't seen anything being muted. Oh, and I wanted to say, yes, Kim, I've tried to do more of these cases we haven't seen. If they're interesting, I'll do small videos on it, just to do something else than just only do the cases we're doing. It could be interesting. I am in the talks with a couple of people about doing a Coburger stream. So I'll have to figure out when and if I can set it up. Because I would kind of like to learn about the case, but it seems weird with all of those hearings being closed off and it's only audio and it's on delay, and there's a lot of strange things in cases these days. Thank you, Jetsia, for being a member for 3 months. Belated happy birthday. Oh, thank you so much. With friends like you, it doesn't hurt 2027. The only thing I have been able to find from the dad case is his stepmom goes away to go to the store to get something, comes home, and he had put one in the chest and one in the dome. And there's no real explanation what, if any, happened. He was 15, I believe, at the time.
So reputation. 2 instructions, one when the reputation is known, and one when it's not, but it's offered to prove that the alleged victim acted in conformity with that reputation, which is, I need you to talk me through how you're doing that, or are you not using that?
No, I think it is relevant because the defense is that Kathy grabbed the knife in the house in Auburndale. And that fits with past instances where she pulled a gun on Collin, where she attacked Inaki with a baseball bat and said she was gonna get a gun, where she pinned her then husband against the house with a car, that she stabbed her husband and burned him, and those were in front of Collin. And she has independent knowledge of those too. So those are the specific instances.
Judge, I have nothing further to elaborate on besides my objection in the hallway. And I object to anything that will be contrary to what Your Honor just read in the jury instructions, Your Honor. It might be it might be a question by question journey to see what, if anything, is admissible or relevant based upon the application of the question asked by Ms. Thornhill, the jury instruction differentiating between, as Your Honor pointed out, the reputation or things that the defendant has to have been present for, have personal knowledge of, and Ms. Detman, depending on how narrow, or maybe I should say how wide her answers are going to be.
As far as her reputation, it's my understanding that her reputation within the family was for being dangerous and violent, and people were scared of what she might do at any given moment. So I was going to ask about both.
All right. While I understand the community for purposes of this type of reputation evidence may be narrower, you're still going to need to lay that predicate.
Sure.
This is a family of estrangement, after all, it seems. So
Because of her violence.
Well,
yeah.
But I don't know who's estranged from who else. So,
well, and
she needs to understand and know that family community.
Okay.
So.
And even if somebody's not still a part of that community on this particular day, I mean, they don't.
I'm not suggesting it has to be at some particular instant in time, but I haven't heard a lot about her closeness with others who may share that. In that
No,
way,
you're
have
just the
knowledge of
sixth
that.
person who
I
asked.
will do my best. Is
And
this
we'll
a-
just take it question by question as Mr. Levine suggests.
Okay,
Do you want to go ahead and just take our mid-morning recess?
that's what I was gonna ask, if I could request.
Oh,
Mr. Levine?
Yeah, that's fine, Judge.
All right, we'll take 10 minutes.
that's not. I don't know. It's not going well today for them. I know what they're doing. They want to show that the mother was the aggressive part and all of that. But at what point does it become too much to sit and talk about her bad behavior? She's not here anymore, and we've seen in other cases that going too hard of the dead on the dead person can backfire, because there will be some kind of sympathy felt for the deceased. I think they should try and wrap it up and get to what had happened around the time with the shared custody, her allowing Collin to be at her house, and that last day.
A lot of times he needs like a shock. Good.
Audio came back. Um, yes, you could argue that, but is it first degree? Did they prove intent? I don't know if they did that. I think, like the defense said, maybe chop it down to second degree. I could eat that easier.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's because Jamie left. They sent the audio through. That's why she left,
no.
because she knew it was coming.
I hit the wrong button and I like closed everything up, but then I see my thing still on the screen and I'm like, but I'm not there. Don't try and talk to me.
I just don't know if it's a good idea to keep on attacking the mother's credibility or her mental state. They have touched upon it. We know she was a cray. We know she was in self-deletion mode. We know that day she was angry, attacking Collin over the phone and her mom, and you don't need to go into it this hard. I think you gave it a good 45 minutes. Get on to it. Get to the day off and say, well, Collin had all intention to stay away from his mom, and it's her fault.
Yeah.
That's where I need to go now. Don't do all of this. Do you remember back in '85 when she fell outside in the yard and blamed the neighbor? We don't need any more of this now.
No, I feel like we just need the basic.
They
kind
couldn't
of
tell
some-
if it was multiple stabs or if just one stab where she had her hand up. But the ME said it could have been in a struggle over the knife. I don't think the ME was good for the state because he said it could have been an accident. It could have been in a two-sided battle, and that's why it makes me very suspicious that they go so hard for first degree because the evidence isn't really there, and second degree they could get him away from a long time as well. First degree is premeditated, and there's nothing. He didn't want her there. She went there. He didn't lure her there. He didn't plan it out. I don't know why they went with first degree. Second degree, I think, would be an easy because she's not here anymore. She has injuries to her body. Second degree would be way easier than first degree, in my opinion. Yeah, all this victim blaming, it can be too much because you get that tipping point where you get sympathy.
I think we needed to hear about like her, this overdoses that she was doing to just kind of solidify that somebody else is saying it's true.
Yeah.
And then kind of her behavior with her family a little bit. You don't need to go too much into detail.
We have that. I don't need to hear any more about her lies about how her stepdad banged her or how she tried to get people in prison. No more family stuff. Get to the day off. Get to you had shared custody and Collin was allowed to stay at the house. All the other crap, get it out of here. We don't need it anymore. We know she was a cuckoo case.
Yeah. Very minimal. Just throw that in there. Give a little brief. We don't need details of every story of every time.
No, but we have 45 minutes of she was an a-hole to her family. Yeah. I don't need any more a-hole family story.
No, we don't need
I need, was Collin allowed to stay at your house? Did you have shared custody? Was the mom allowed to go there? That's the only thing I need to know now. I don't need all this. Well, I have a Hilton hotel something, so I can buy trips. Don't need to know any of this. Now I just need to know we shared custody. Collin was in my house, which he had been designated a safe space from the DSF, and she wasn't allowed to go there. Boom. If I was the defense, that's what I want. I don't want a mom rambling for an hour about how she's going to bury her daughter at the Jesus statue in Key Largo, Montego. Ooh, I want to take you to Bahamas, Bermuda, Bahamas. Come on, pretty ma. Na, 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 na. Get there fast, and when we take it slow, that's where I wanna go. Down to Kokomo.
Yeah.
You'd love to hear from Collin's brother, but he has not been mentioned anywhere near to that, so that will just be character attacks again. Yeah, my mom was crazy.
Yeah.
Because if the state didn't bring him, it'll be negative about the victim. And I don't need the brother to come in and...
It's fine as long as...
Are y'all still discussing this stuff?
Yeah.
How much to make
she's still on
way more than this?
We can't really talk.
You have to buy my $25,000 a month membership to make me stop singing. Then I'll only sing for you every day at 9 p.m. when I will call you up and say, bedtime, Zach. The little sack with the coal. He needs to go now into the bed. He needs to sleep so he can grow. He is 3 inches, even with no snow. $25,000 a month, Zach, and you can get that every night.
$25,000 a month.
If you up it to 50,000, Jamie will call and wake you up saying, up, get up, Zach, get out of your bed, you're lazy cunt. Get up, out of bed now. You're so lazy, Zach, go fishing, cause you need to get out of bed now. You can get that package for
Smooch those fish.
$50,000.
Smooch, smooch.
The only song you can play is Wonderwall, because that's what the chick takes when you're at the campfire. At the hey girls, I play the guitar. This is called Wonderwall by Oasis. By now, you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I know your type. Well, the granddads did say it, so yeah. But again,
Well, the way he said it was so, I don't know, it sounded so rehearsed.
and
Like,
nursing dog mom, planning has to be proven in the court of law. Not what our problem is. We hear everything that goes on, and they can't. What the heck is going on in this courtroom? And you don't know what.
I don't know what this one
The court reporter does that. I just can't imagine it would never.
Keep the audio on or off. Hardy Highlands polk. Is it a commercial for? It's for all the free can read people recommended you. In this case, is where I live currently. Don't drink the H2O. Well, thank you for joining us. And even though Zach is here, we are a nice group of people. The rest of us. Jamie's a bit mean, but she's only attempted 1 murder in the last 2 years we know of. But thank you for joining.
Allegedly.
Well, not allegedly. Iris told us it was an attempted murder.
I did an attempt.
You didn't succeed, so it is an attempt.
I wasn't trying to kill her. It was an accident.
Well, they're too easy to see. Your life is nice. Well, Iris has a different story. That she flew all the way to Wisconsin to meet with Jamie. That noise is really annoying. And the thanks she got was, first of all, she tried to just drive her into a field somewhere and leave her. But sadly, the GPS stopped her. And second, she tried to unalive her with a garage door. True story.
I just forgot she was there. I'm used to hitting the button.
This audio is really annoying.
And then I said, hustle those buns, lady, because it has no sensor and it won't stop. She got out of the way. It's fine. We're all good.
Yeah, yeah. She lives,
Yeah, she lived.
but still, that's not nice when she flies all the way up there.
I made up for it. We had fun. I'm just really upset she didn't get to watch her favorite movie, Leprechaun in the Hood, Back to the Hood.
Da Hood.
Back to the Hood.
Yeah, not the Hood. Yeah, magic of the internet. You can meet people through some dudes in Denmark. Or you can do like other people do. Just go to the mall, spend money, and looking for dudes. Sarah, if you didn't know, have been moved to her forever home and has filed an argument that her appellant lawyer still hasn't contacted her. She has one appointed to her, but he hasn't filed anything yet. So handwritten letters is probably on the way.
We're back on the record. Defendant is present.
I do.
Lawyers, state counsel is present. We're ready for the jury.
Yes, sir.
If the Ellen Greenberg case will be, I saw someone write in the comments today that it won't be televised. If it's televised, I will try and cover it because it's a really, really strange story. If it's not, I will try and do video recaps of what I can find in the media. I know it's not as fun, but I'll try and do it because this case is really strange.
Yeah.
20 stabulations, 10 of them in her own back. She kept stabulating herself after severing her spinal cord and passing away. And people say young people don't put an effort to it. This lady...
And they said it was her own doing?
Yeah, self-deletion, even though she had post-mortem injuries.
Okay, makes sense.
She kept stabulating after she severed her spinal cord. Jamie, you're a trained professional doctor. You know the spinal cord is kind of important for your arms to work.
Are you sure?
I think so.
Okay, I'll believe you.
Marissa will drive down to the courtroom because she's local and will tape it for us. So,
yeah, I don't think they do either.
yeah, it's crazy. So great to hear that you got your stickers for being the Bingstress. The winner of our bingo last week. Well, there's the argument I think they disagreed was, did she sever it completely and the injuries to her brain, because the state had an autopsy done and a neuro something specialist look at it. That neuro specialist has later come forward and said, I have nothing to do with this case. They can't prove any payments to her. They can't prove any reports. They can't prove any contact with her. So based on that, she never ever had an opinion on the case because she never looked at it. If that's true, again, And the coroner or the ME who did the autopsy last weekend, after reaching some kind of a plea with the family, went out and said, I think that instead of, he first ruled it a murder, then self-deletion after what they called pressure from the police. But he said, well, because of the facts he was told about the crime scene. And then he, I think the 31st of January, sent out a new motion saying, after the new evidence, I'm told, I think it should be ruled something other than homicide. He didn't as something other than self-deletion. So that's a very interesting case. I've only seen parts of that trial. Yeah, that's why she had post-mortem stabulations as well.
Please be seated.
Ms. Detman, I'm going to ask you about some specific instances and may ask you to describe a little bit about them. So starting with, are you aware of Kathy having pinned her then husband to the wall of the house with her running car?
Yes, ma'am, I know.
Okay. And were you present for that?
No.
Have you ever, are you aware if Collin was aware of that?
The t-shirts, it dependent on what type of t-shirt you're buying. I can't even tell you. I am looking to try and find someone who might be able to give me a better quality. So I can't really, because I've had some good t-shirts and I had some that's just not that good. So I can't tell you which one are the good ones. Until I find another vendor, don't buy t-shirts. We'll figure it out.
Incident.
Yes.
He was aware.
Yes.
What about an incident where Kathy stabbed her then husband with a corkscrew and then burned him with a terrarium light? Are you aware of that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you aware that Collin was present for that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of Kathy threatening to kill her then ex-husband's girlfriend's family in Homestead?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware that she actually started driving toward their house to follow through on her plan?
Yes.
Did you actually speak with her on the phone then?
Yes. I was telling her that what she was doing was crazy. She was going to get in trouble, that she couldn't take it out on 3 innocent lives in Homestead. She needed to turn around and go back home.
Are you aware if Collin was aware of that incident?
I'm not aware.
The incident where you said Kathy attacked your husband with a baseball bat.
Yes.
Are you aware if Collin was aware of that incident?
I'm not aware of that.
And have you ever personally witnessed Kathy engage in a physical act of violence towards Collin?
I know that there was a fight at the house in Port Charlotte, and the fight started because she was beating him with a belt and making him do push-ups, sit-ups, push-ups, and then holding a weight above his head while he was running in place.
Okay. When you say that she beat him with a belt, were you actually there for
Yes,
that?
I was, and I tried to stop it.
Right. What about,
That's not good.
are you aware that Kathy pulled a gun on Collin?
Yes, and then later she said that she denied it. Then she said yes. She pulled out the gun and handed it to Collin and said, "Just kill me, shoot me."
So she actually admitted that to
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And obviously Collin was aware of that because he was the one who was present with her.
Yes, and Corporal Rendas was aware of that also.
How was Corporal Rentis aware of this?
Because he and I and Kathy were talking about that. There's a difference when you take a gun out and give it to somebody and say, here, kill me with this, versus somebody pulling a gun out and putting it to their head or to their chest.
And so Corporal Rentis was a part of this conversation where Kathy admitted she pulled a gun,
Yes.
and she said she handed it to Collin.
Yes.
Did she ever admit that she actually threatened to kill Collin with it?
No, she never did.
Within your family, we've talked about some of the family members. Despite some of the estrangements that Kathy had, would the family sort of maybe not talk to her for a while and then everybody would come back together, take trips together? I mean,
I was the constant in her life. My oldest daughter didn't talk with her while she was married.
okay, what I'm asking about is, did the family talk about Kathy with each other?
Yes.
And whether or not Kathy was estranged from anyone at any one particular moment, did the family continue to have discussions about Kathy?
Yes.
And was there, did Kathy have a reputation within your family as being violent?
Yes.
Did she have a reputation as being unpredictable
Yes.
and volatile?
Yes.
Despite all of this, did you still love Kathy?
Yes. Very much. Very much. I always wanted to help her.
It appears that Kathy at times wanted Collin with her at all costs, and then at other times wanted nothing to do with him.
Yes. When she had Collin back for about a month, she spoke with me and she said, Mom, I have to get up every morning at 6 o'clock, take him to school, and then I have to go back and pick him up. And I said, you don't have to. Let him ride the bus.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 26 for identification.
Sorry, what number is that?
26. Will you read this and see if you recognize it as a text from Kathy?
Yes.
And ask that Defense Exhibit number 26 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
It will be received.
In this particular text, is Kathy saying she's done with this? She can't take Collin to school anymore?
Yes.
So that was a specific example of what you just described to the jury.
Yes.
Don't say that to Iris. She has the chancla of death.
As part of this vacillating back and forth that Kathy seemed to have about whether she wanted to have Collin live with her or didn't want Collin to live with her, did you all agree eventually to a concurrent custody plan?
Yes, we did.
And that was something, did anybody force Kathy to sign those papers?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Were there times when Kathy wanted to cancel the 751 plan, the concurrent custody plan?
Yes,
And then would she change her mind back?
yes.
Okay, so it's safe to say she wasn't consistent.
She was not consistent.
Obviously, Kathy owned a gun, right?
Yes,
So at some point, did Kathy give her gun to you to have it out of the home in Fort Charlotte?
yes,
Do you remember when that was?
yes. It it's right after the incident where Officer Rentis and Lacey got involved when Collin came back to the home. So that must have been somewhere in the October timeframe of 2023.
Okay. How long did you have the gun at your home and away from Kathy and Collin's house in Fort Charlotte?
Less than a week,
Okay. Why did you have it for less than a week?
because she demanded that I give it back. She said, "It's my gun, you can't have it." And I said, "But we discussed with Officer Rentis and Lacey that I would keep it." "No, it's my gun, you can't have it. And how do I know Nikki won't use it to kill you?"
Okay. So Kathy got the gun back, and
Yes.
so far as you know, she had it with her.
She had told me that she had given it to her next door neighbor, Melanie, for safekeeping. And then a couple months later, she said, "No, Mom, I lied to you. I've had it all along."
Finally, you had a lot of communication with Kathy on September 7th and September 8th,
Yes.
right? You also had communication with Collin during that time.
Yes.
Did you allow Collin to go to your house in Auburndale when Kathy kicked him out?
Yes.
And why did you allow that?
Because a child can't be just roaming around the street by himself. Collin told me he didn't have gas in his car. And we had like half a tank. That was it. He didn't have his phone. He was using his computer somehow to talk with me. I told him, I said, "You have to get to Auburndale before dark, because otherwise the gates will be closed. During the day, the gates are open. And go in through the back sliding glass door, because you know there's no lock on the back sliding glass door. And I will be there Sunday. Don't talk to anybody and don't leave the house."
At some point, obviously, Kathy, as the jury's heard on some videos, was trying to find out if Collin was actually at your house.
Yes.
When did she finally discover that he was at your house?
I let her know around 11.
That's a great saying. I never heard that before. Yes, there's always, and again, all of the bad stuff that comes in now is because it's the defense. All the bad stuff that came in about Collin was because it was the state.
That night.
On the 7th, so
Yes.
Saturday the 7th.
Mhm.
And how did she react?
She said, "You lied to me." And I said, "I told you I didn't know if Collin was there." I said, "Because I don't want you going over there and grabbing him. You just threw him out. Give him some time, give you some time. Let's not have a huge problem associated with this."
And aside from conversations that the jury has heard between you and Kathy over the next hours, did you specifically tell Kathy not to go to your house in Auburndale?
Yes, yes. I said, "I will be going Sunday morning." I left first thing Sunday morning. I was going to leave right then, but I was so tired and I had difficulty seeing in the dark that I thought, no, it's better that I wait. In hindsight, I should have gone. But so I waited. I talked to her. She said, "No, Mom, I'm going." And that's when she said, "I sold the car. They're going to come by and pick it up." I said, "You can't sell Collin's car. It's his car." "No, I don't care. I'm selling it. I'm turning it into his probation officer for not, because he's not allowed to leave the county." Which when I talked to the probation officer, I found out that Kathy had told them that I had terminal cancer. So therefore, Collin could come and visit me anytime I want. I had to tell the probation officer, "Right now, I'm only at stage 3, so no, and I'm only in observation, so I'm not terminal." So
But you personally told Kathy, do not go to Auburndale.
yes, I told her, I said, when I get back, I will give him gas money and I will follow him there, or we can wait until Monday morning. Let's just wait. Don't go there. You don't
Why-
have permission to go.
Why did you not want her to go to your house in Auburndale?
Because I didn't want her to start a fight with Collin. I was afraid that she would be combative, maybe go after him with a baseball bat, a gun, something.
I don't have any other questions, I don't think.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions, but Mr. Levine does.
Mr. Levine?
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Dedman.
Good morning, sir.
Ms. Dedman, I know you're going through a lot with the loss of your daughter and cancer and everything else, but I'm going to need to ask you some questions if that's all right with you.
Yes, sir.
Now, today here in court in front of the jury, you've talked about that you were concerned that Kathy was going to attack your grandson, and then you listed a bunch of different weapons. But weren't you more concerned that your grandson, who had killed someone before and had been violent countless times with your daughter, weren't you concerned that he was the one that was going to attack your
Good
daughter?
question.
No, he had not been violent countless times with Kathy. Kathy had been violent with him countless times.
Now, a lot of the things you've said here today, you never bothered to tell me or law enforcement or anyone.
Objection, Judge, it's improper impeachment.
Ms. Detman, as it pertains to your grandson, do you talk to him a lot on the phone since he's been in jail?
Yes,
Okay. Do you do any emailing with him?
I don't email with him while he's in jail.
You-
No,
you
just
prefer
talking
to-
on the phone.
Talk with him? All right.
Yes.
And how many times a week would you say that you talk to your grandson on the
I
phone?
usually talk to him 3 times. I encourage him to pray. I ask him if he's eating. I mean, I'm a dietitian, that's what I do. That he's drinking his milk, that he's exercising in his cell, and most important, that he's reading books. And I keep telling him, you have got to pray. You've got to read your Bible.
Now, I mean, this is an obvious question, but you love your grandson, correct?
Yes,
Your daughter is dead, clearly,
yes,
and she's not coming back, correct?
no,
Now, would you agree that you don't want to see the defendant have to go to prison for a very long time? Is that correct?
I don't want to see my grandson go to prison for something he didn't do.
All right. Well, you couldn't make it any more crystal clear that you're up there and all your answers that you've given have been driven by you believing that the defendant, your grandson, didn't murder your daughter, correct?
I am giving clear answers, sir, as to what happened. I know my daughter. That's why I didn't want her coming that day to the house without me being
not
there.
good.
I wanted her to wait
This is
the
not good
next day so that
policy.
maybe she could calm down a little bit.
You know your grandson too, correct?
Yes,
And you know his history, correct?
yes.
Now, you say you know what happened, but you weren't there when it happened.
No, I'm not saying that I know what happened. I know the possibility of what could have happened. I wasn't there, so I have no way of knowing. I just know the facts about Kathy, having lived with her and worked with her, even to try to maintain her sanity, to try to maintain that she could keep her job as a teacher, to try to maintain that she wasn't trying to slice herself and kill herself,
Okay,
and
let's-
not coming after my husband with a gun.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Kathy. Now, it sounded like she had some mental problems. Is that correct?
Yes,
Now, you would probably agree that it didn't help that she got impregnated when she was just a child, correct?
she was 13. She got impregnated when she ran away from the Hope House, and they found her in the hotel with her boyfriend. It didn't help that her father called her F bitches and that she was damaged goods, and he didn't want anything to do with her.
Ma'am, it sounds like you're really quick to try to.
What's the golden rule? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. And don't be antagonizing to the grandma. It's I don't think this is working really, really well. No, she didn't call him damaged good. That's her dad. The dad called her F itches and damaged good. This poor deceased lady was a mental case. There's no doubt about it. Does it make it right for him to unalive her? No. Does it maybe sway the jury to see that she could have been aggressive towards him? Possibly. That's yeah.
Throw dirt on your dead daughter. Would you agree with that?
No, not at all. My dead daughter did the best that she could. We have a problem in this country with addressing mental health. We all know that. And that's what she had. She had mental health issues. At times, she was the greatest person on the world. Very intelligent.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Now, your daughter worked as a teacher for many, many years, correct?
Yes, she did.
And her students loved her, correct?
Yes, they did, for the most part. I mean, as with any teachers, you're going to have some students that, I mean, I'm an educator myself. You're going to have some students that don't. For the most part, yes.
And she cared about her students, correct?
Yes, she did.
She had a passion and a love for teaching.
Yes, she did.
And she taught, predominantly she taught English, correct?
Yes.
And she cares so much about her students that at a certain point, she let one of her students move in when she was married to her ex-husband, Chuck, correct?
Yes.
And then, unfortunately for your daughter, Chuck took advantage of this underage student, is what it's believed to have happened, correct? And
Judge, I'm gonna object.
What the heck?
What the hell?
Approach.
So her
Now,
ex-husband.
who's Chuck? Is this Chuck the guy that is no longer with us?
Jemima, is Chuck the one who's not longer? I put down the family tree. So she was an underage mom. Chuck is
Well,
dead now.
Chuck doesn't
is dead.
sound like the greatest guy.
No, but she's an
But that's
underage
true.
mom who marries. We've seen this before. Marries a guy who have the same tendencies.
Yes.
So now, where's he going with all of this? Because it's not the grandma who let someone in there. And it just shows she has poor social skills. She doesn't pick up the cues.
Wow. That wasn't.
I don't know. But I didn't have Kitty Diddler on my bingo card for today. Yeah, to me I wouldn't have gotten that one up. Showing bias of the witness that her daughter was married to a guy who's a kitty diddler.
Yeah.
The relevancy, I don't know, unless the mom forced the underage kid to stay in, or the grandma's forced the underage kid to stay in the house, so she kept being violated. I don't know what, if any. No. If they've been annoying you for a while, you can do it. Chuck was 17 when Collin's older brother was born. Caddy was 14. Then they had Collin when she was 22 and he was 25-ish. Yeah, this is, let's just say this family tree bears rotten apples. It's not just Collin. It seems like there's a whole heck of a lot of trouble in that family.
Yeah.
But it could also show us why she had all these mental problems if this is the life she've led. That's I don't know.
Me either.
But he didn't break the rules of his probation, and he didn't lose his job. That's again lies that she made.
Yeah.
That's
The
the big
detective
problem
said
is
he could go to his grandma's. He preferred him to go to his grandma's to get away from her. He even told Kathy that day, don't go over there. Leave him alone.
yeah.
And she still refused.
Maybe he unalived him
Miss
because he
Stedman, I'm
wanted to
sorry we
diddle
have to
him.
talk about some unpleasant things, but it'll be over soon enough. No problem. So, do you recall my last question?
Yes.
Uh,
You were asking me why I was spilling dirt on my dead daughter, and I said, I'm not. I said, I supported her. I've gone into massive debt in trying to ensure
Okay, ma'am.
that she
I
had.
appreciate that, but that was a few questions.
Oh,
But-
you're talking about how Kathy ran away from the Hope House and they found her in the,
No, I'm not talking about that either, but if you listen to my questions,
Just ask the question.
it'll get easier. So,
She is not
we
reading.
were talking about
I don't
your
know how many
daughter.
people keep saying that. She's not reading anything.
She is not reading. She can. How could she know that he was going to ask her a question about the Hope House and then write it down? Whenever she's trying to remember, she does this.
And she wouldn't be allowed to read anything.
No, and the judge can look
Uh,
down on the table and see she has no paper. No reading is allowed.
That she was a very committed teacher and very committed to the youth of her classroom. And I mentioned that at a certain point, she even allowed one of her students to move into the household, and it was believed that Chuck had an inappropriate relationship with this student. Are you aware of that? With a yes or no answer, if we can start at that place, I'd appreciate it. Are you aware of that?
yes.
And you were not a big fan of Chuck as it ended up being the divorce, correct? For how he treated her, from how he impregnated her as a child through the years, being physically, emotionally, and mentally abusive to your daughter. I can't imagine you were a fan of that, were you?
No, Robert
Well-
was a fan of Chuck.
Now, I
Make a
ma'am,
case
I
on
understand
why
that you
Chuck-
hate your ex-husband.
I don't hate him.
Well, it sounds
What
like you're
happened to him?
throwing stuff about Robert in a lot.
You just asked me if I was a fan, and I wanted to tell you who in the family was. I knew Chuck from
Your
the
Honor.
time he was.
Mr. Stedman,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's the point. He gets to ask the
I'm
questions
sorry.
to elicit the information he's looking for. If additional information is needed, Ms. Thornhill.
Yeah, how is it helpful to make Chuck look like the bad guy
Close attention to the question.
when?
I'm kind of on board with unaliving Chuck right now.
Well, yeah, like if he's literally doing those things, and then the prosecutor's actually saying, yeah, he was very mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive. Like, okay, then how is he not doing those things to Collin also?
Yeah.
So, come on, that doesn't really help you.
I don't know.
Ask and try to answer just the question that's asked.
I apologize.
It's all right. Mr. Levine.
Appreciate it. Miss,
How can Kathy testify to the car incident and all the other things? She did not witness this, and the only way this should come in is because Collin testified. I missed that part. The only thing I heard her say about the car was that Kathy had told her that she was selling the car, and she said, "You can't do that." That's and we have that on tape that she told her that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's allowed in.
Stedman, as it pertains to your last piece of information that you provided, as it pertains to your husband, he hated Chuck for what Chuck did to his daughter, that being impregnating a little girl, correct?
I'm not objecting to the relevance and to speculation about what Robert thought about Chuck.
Sustain this to relevance.
All right, Ms. Stedman, if I ask you a question for your information, just please answer it, irrespective of your feelings about your ex-husband, all right? Now, at a certain point, Kathy got divorced from Chuck, correct?
Yes,
After years of unthinkable abuse, correct?
yes.
Now, let's move on to a different subject matter. When your grandson lived in Oklahoma with his dad for about 3 years or so, at the end of that, your grandson wanted to come live with Kathy and actually was able to, correct?
Yes,
And Kathy was very happy about that, correct?
yes.
And she felt that
She ran away from home and was found in some hotel with him where he had knocked her up.
missed out,
People
understandably
do
so,
it every
on
day.
multiple years of her son's life, correct?
Yes.
Jamie has had 4 marriages started that way, all of them annulled because of her young age of 12 when she
goodness.
started doing it.
No. don't.
And she was trying to fix or make your grandson's life better.
She was trying to improve his lifestyle, yes.
Now, you described it as a fight in Port Charlotte where law enforcement came because you said your daughter was beating Collin with a belt that made him do sit-ups and push-ups. Remember that?
I did push-ups and I took away the sit-ups.
She apparently was at something called Hope House that she ran away from.
Yeah.
I don't know what Hope House is, but she ran away from that. It sounded like some kid institution, but she ran away from that, and that's when she was hooking up with an older man. And he wasn't that much older. He was a couple of years older. So I don't know if it would go under, is it called Romeo and Juliet laws? I think there's something like that.
So it was push-ups and putting the weights above his head and running in place.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Now, you remember talking to law enforcement when they came out there, correct?
Yes.
And giving a sworn statement because you just wanted both parties, your grandson and your daughter, you wanted everybody to be safe and healthy and happy, correct?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Dedman, as to the root of what the issue was that night, do you remember telling the deputy that the three of you were at the dining room table and Susan had Collin seated down and
He wasn't an old man. He was 15 or 16, something like that at the time.
Who?
Again, the father, Chuck.
I think they said he was 17 and she was 14.
17 and she was 14 when they had the kid. So she was 13 and 16. I think you're misunderstanding. Chuck wasn't an old man. He was he was still a teenager. He was 16 years old. And they ran away from she ran away from some institution. So
yeah.
And why she did it, the grandma believes it's because her husband was mistreating their daughter, calling her a broken egg and a biatch.
Kathy told Collin that she would be implementing new parenting rules, and Collin would be having his Xbox, his cell phone, and other items taken away as disciplinary action due to him being disrespectful to her. Do you recall telling law enforcement that?
I remember telling law enforcement about the Xbox would be, I don't know if it's taken away, but it was going to be restricted.
And at that time, your grandson didn't want to hear from his mom, and so he stood up and threatened to fight her and said, let's just do it, correct?
That was after the incident with the exercising and belt, the beating of the belt. That's when Kathy wanted us to all sit down and eat sandwiches. Like it literally went from one extreme to another. Sit down and eat sandwiches. And then Collin got up from the table and said, let's just do it. And I went to go get my phone to contact Officer Rentis or Corporal Rentis or Officer Lacey.
Okay, all right, very good. Now, you mentioned that you and your family members love to talk about how violent Kathy was. Is that right?
No, we didn't love to talk about how violent Kathy was. We talked about what we could do to help her. We didn't want her to lose her job. We didn't want her to be suicidal. And more than anything, we wanted her to try to get better.
Did you talk about how violent your grandson was?
No.
And why not? Weren't you concerned about that?
Objections.
Sustained.
Now, you were concerned about where the defendant would live, correct? In terms of who he might hurt, whether he lived with you and your husband, Nikki, or if he lived with Kathy.
My husband did not want Collin to live with us because he said that if Collin lived with us, Kathy would be over at the house and he didn't want to have to deal with Kathy.
Ma'am, didn't Nikki say he didn't want Collin to live with them because he was afraid that Collin might kill you or kill him?
No.
All right, now let's move on to the subject matter of kitchen knives or butcher knives. Do you tell the jury about the time when you noticed that there was a knife missing from your residence there in Auburndale, and you were trying to figure out who stole the knife or who took the knife?
Yes, there was a small knife with a blade like this that I bought at the dollar store, which is now like the $1.29 store. And and it had a protective cover on it.
They did call him. That was the granddad who said, I didn't have any contact. I didn't go to the funeral because she's still here with us. You can talk to her. I can talk to her. Boom. That got shut down real fast. And then they just asked about the multiple phone calls he had where Collin told him, I'm going to unalive everyone. But he didn't have any proof of it other than that's what he said.
And it wasn't in the drawer with the rest of the knives and silverware.
And did you find out eventually that your grandson had taken the knife?
Yes.
And he basically told you he just needed it just in case and did not elaborate on what he was going to do with it?
He said he just needed it.
Now, at that time also, Kathy made it explicitly clear to you that she was afraid that the defendant might hurt her, correct?
Not at that time, it was later.
And there was multiple times when Kathy let you know that she was afraid for your safety and for her own safety.
Oh, yeah, then call him to the stand. I didn't, I thought it was the old husband.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that a couple of things about the 7th and the 8th of September. You mentioned that Collin told you that he didn't have a phone with him on the 7th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that he did have his cell phone with him and it was in his car?
So his cell phone had been turned off by his mother. She used to do that anytime she'd kick him out. She'd turn the cell phone off. In fact, it's in the records that she turned it off, and she turned it on, and she turned it off.
And you mentioned that the sliding door, that it had no lock on. Is that correct?
We had adapted the sliding door for a doggy door so Freddie could go in and out when he was staying in Armandale on Massentown. And so it did not have a locking mechanism. You could close the door, but you couldn't lock it.
And so that's how you mentioned that your grandson was able to get into your house on the 7th?
Mm-hmm. Oh, plus the front door was. I don't believe in locks. I've been burglarized and the burglars got in quicker than I could find my lock. I don't lock things.
Okay. Now your response when this was going on, when law enforcement made contact with you, was that you didn't know that Collin was a psychopathic killer, correct?
I never said that. Never.
If I may approach, please, Your Honor. I'm going to show you page 59 of 67 of her statement on September 8th.
I want you to see the first before.
And if you could just take your time and read the highlight portion to yourself.
But one thing, I don't use words like stupid, Colin. I would never say that.
Oh, yes, you just want you to let
Oh,
yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's right, that's right.
We need to go sidebar real quick.
Have you finished reading that?
Yes, uh-huh.
The first sidebar.
Did this lady even try to let Caddy discipline her own child?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Caddy had a lot of things that she liked to discipline him with. Taking away all his belongings, beating him with a belt, making him march on place, keeping weight above her head, punching him, threatening to take away his car. That's just what we heard about in this case. So Collin was disciplined with a firm hand. So I just don't think she had the parenting skill, probably because she didn't get them when she grew up, because sadly, abuse is a cyclical thing in a family. If you grow up with it, even though you'll hate it, most people end up doing it to their own children at some point.
Yeah.
So that's sadly how it works sometimes. again, I don't know what happened in that house on that day because no one knows. Only he knows, and he won't take the stand. I can almost guarantee that. So all we'll get is how bad the person was. The state have spent a week telling you how bad Collin was. Now the defense will spend. I don't think they're going to spend much more time than the grandma to tell you how bad Kathy was. Is that the truth? No. They will be doing it to save his behind. Just as the state lied about him to try and tan his behind. Because that's how the job of the court is. It's to try and disparage the other side and make them seem like they are in the wrong. Did she deserve it? No. Could it have been avoided? I think if the CPS or whatever it's called had stepped in and been way more on top of it instead of just saying, it'll be fine. It could possibly have been fixed. Do I think she needed mental help? Yes. Do I think he needs mental help? Yes. No matter if he's found guilty or not guilty, this kid will forever be riddled with trauma. And if he's let loose, he needs to be in some kind of program that can help him because he unalived both his parents. We don't know much about the dad thing. I tried to look it up. Nothing really comes up. And we don't know much about the mom thing, other than she was aggressive towards him. She was very domineering, controlling. But did she attack him? We don't have any evidence for or against it. We just know she isn't alive anymore. This kid will need all the counseling.
We saw on Friday how she reacts to things. And honestly, they didn't show one sliver of evidence that Collin acts the way she acts. So she goes from 0 to 60, and the grandma's saying she's been violent before. So we don't know what happened in that house. We don't know if she attacked him and he had to defend himself. Who knows? But yeah, no one said she deserved it. No one deserves that type of thing. But
no,
if you're being attacked, just to say it wasn't self-defense.
Yeah, and that's the problem. We don't know what happened. I won't be going live tonight because I have a massive toothache and I didn't really sleep last night. So I won't be doing that. And Krista, thank you so much for 7 corner kisses. 7 corner kisses. And I won't be doing a PayPal because it's a whole heck of a mess to set up so it doesn't go to my private address and put my real name on it. But thank you so much for the consideration and the corner kiss. I don't even know how much they take, but it's not that much. But thank you so much. And again,
yeah, thank you. Grey Witch, I don't think she had a problem. She did not like her husband. They just testified that he was very abusive to her. And yeah, I don't really understand where that's coming from.
I don't even think we have heard that he was a spoiled brat because she was buying stuff for him for school, and she spent his money doing it. And it seemed like it was her who wanted to go on all the cruises and at Disney. So I haven't heard any evidence that he was a spoiled brat. I think he's a mentally very challenged kid. Yeah. Is most likely what I would consider him. He might be a sicko. 2 dead parents isn't normal. Well, I have 2 dead parents, but I didn't help them. But I don't have anywhere he's a spoiled brat. He was working at Domino's he was driving around in a banger. The money used to buy him stuff was from his own trust fund. So I don't see him as a super spoiled one. We know they are unalive, both parents. I feel like the only one. I don't know why you feel like you're the only one seeing this. Everyone knows both parents are unalived, but we also know that the state have to prove guilt. It's not enough that you kill someone. You have to kill someone and not have the right to do it. And he's claiming a form of self-defense, possibly murder too. But if you go along with the state theory, he planned all of this. He wanted to do this. And I am just not there.
No.
I know he killed his mom. I'm pretty sure there's more to the story. But I'm nowhere did I see he planned her to come to the house so he could attack her. Because he didn't want to talk to her that day. She was the one who constantly kept saying, turn on your phone, turn on your phone. I'm coming over there. You're in violation of your probation deal. You can't stay there. I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. That's what we have from the video. We have to take into account what's been provided in court. She was the one who went to him. He didn't plan anything.
Yeah.
She could have stayed home.
She could have stayed home. They told her to stay. The detective told her to stay home.
Yeah.
The detective said, he can be there. You stay home. Don't go over there. And she didn't listen. It doesn't mean she deserved it, but we saw what rage she was in when she left that house that day.
Yeah.
And even the neighbors testified how she rolled up in that driveway and she was screaming and throwing things. So
the charges was dropped because they couldn't disprove self-defense. But
yes,
they mentioned they might try and investigate it again if he's found guilty in this one, because then they can use this as a crutch to get it in and say, well, he's a convicted killer, and he probably did his
sad part. Because if they couldn't, they had nothing to try, to like go forth with the case the first time. They shouldn't use anything now. And the only thing they had was the mom saying, I'm going to go and tell on you because I have all these videos, which we've never seen.
Well, he isn't really claiming self-defense, but he said it was her attacking her. So again, yeah.
Yes, she was. She was throwing things either out of his car or into his car. They testified to that. They said she was agitated. That was very clear in their testimony.
She was thrown close into the passenger side of the car. The screaming was, Collin, you're hurting me, as I remember it.
When he apparently kidnapped her into the house. So, yeah.
He was already at grandma's. Remember, she sent him the first message at 2:53 in the morning saying, if you're not home by 10 a.m., I'm calling the police on you. I'm calling, you're breaking your curfew, all of that. And then she kept going till she went over there in the afternoon. So he had already left the house. He was at grandma's, and she got mad about that because he turned off his phone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll disagree with that one. I think there's a lot of bad people who needs to be unalived because I'm at the point where if you are a serial unaliver or you hurt children, I don't think you should have the possibility to breathe oxygen. But that's my take. I know you mean in this case, but blanket statements like that is. I think a lot of people probably at least should be very severely put near to the end of it when we hear about these people who do things to kids, I really have no sympathy for any of those.
And actually, yeah, in some of the videos, she actually threw him out of the house. She told him to leave.
Yeah.
So he left and went to his grandma's. So she told him to leave. And then when he
because
left,
he didn't,
then all of
he
a sudden
want-
come back.
He didn't want to help her hang a shelf because there was no studs in the wall. And then she called her mom yelling, and he could just leave and go F off because he didn't want to hang some shelving on a wall. That's why she threw him out. And then the next morning she went absolutely cray-cray and said, "Hey, come home or I'll call the police on you." She claims she had 4 videos of him admitting to unaliving her dad. None of those have ever been found. She claims the granddad had recordings of that. He didn't. He just said that's what he told him. So again, we know she lied about everything she said in those phone calls. That he wasn't allowed to be there, that he was breaking curfew, that he was breaking his he's got out of prison, he has to follow the rules deal. Bond agreement. So yeah. They said that they might look at it again if he's found guilty in this case.
Even though they didn't have evidence to charge him the first time around, which is stupid. So, because either you have it or you don't.
Probation, thank you. We do know about her childhood. She was in some institution, ran away, got knocked up at 13, which is horrible. I couldn't imagine my kids being knocked up at 13. I would probably take some street justice in that case.
It's okay.
I'm gonna get
Miss
some.
Dedman, we're almost done,
Mom.
all right?
It's okay if we disagree.
Miss Dedman, is it a fair
Can still be
statement that
friends.
Kathy had expressed to you that she was getting very frustrated with the fact that your grandson wouldn't do his chores, was disrespectful, and was basically just taking his mom for granted?
Yes.
And when Kathy was communicating with you on September 7th and September 8th, that was the Saturday and the Sunday, she did so by both text messages as well as phone calls, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Kathy made it clear that she wanted your grandson home by 10 a.m. on Sunday, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then when that didn't happen, when 10 a.m. came and went, she still made it clear that she wanted your grandson to come home, correct?
Yes.
And Kathy mentioned that she wanted him home. She wanted him to go get work at Domino's from like 4 or 4:30 to 8 or 8:30 on Sunday, correct?
Yes.
And your grandson was working at Domino's, correct?
Yes, he was.
And so Kathy wanted him home so he could then go to Domino's that night, correct?
Yes.
And then kind of towards the end of the communications, then Kathy told you she was going to your house to get Collin to come home, correct?
Yes.
And she told you that either he could go home with her or he could drive, basically follow her in his car, correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your time today, Ms. Dedman.
I have no regret.
The witness released.
Yes, sir.
Is she released?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's okay. We don't all have to agree. We all see it our way. But it's fun to discuss it.
Is there other evidence you wish to present?
No, sir. That's right.
Rest. Will there be any rebuttal, Mr. Levine?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, both parties have rested their cases.
Oh, that's
The
it?
next phase would be closing arguments, followed by your instructions on the law and then deliberations. Closing arguments in these types of cases are typically not short. Also, I need to have a conference with the lawyers regarding the jury instructions, although it is up to me to decide what laws apply and how you should be instructed. They do have a right to give input. That conference could take some time. So if we did all of that in closing arguments, we would be sending you out probably mid to late afternoon. And I don't want to do that to you. So I'm going to give you an early day today. We are going to work the rest of the afternoon to get all of those strings tied up so that tomorrow morning we'll begin directly with closing arguments, and then the instructions will already be finalized, and you will be probably going to deliberations around lunchtime, I would imagine. So you're going to have an early day. Now, although you have heard all of the evidence, actually, I'm not quite sure about that. Give me just a moment. Would you approach just sidebar real quick?
I can't even go get myself some Tylenol without a new sidebar. Oh, I hate tooth pain.
You have tooth pain?
Yeah, it's been killing me all night. And
Schedule, ladies and gentlemen. So before I dismiss you, I just need a few minutes with the lawyers outside your presence. So if you would just wait for us in the hallway.
Did they rest?
All right,
Yes,
please.
they rested. That was it. That was it.
No, I didn't crack a tooth. I just have something that, and I couldn't get to a dentist today. It's probably gonna be fine tomorrow. Yeah, I wish they had that, and I probably wanted some mental take on them as well.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Griffith, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I did not ask you about whether or not you wanted to give testimony in this case, so I need to talk to you about that. I assume, based on your lawyer having rested, that you did not want to testify. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor.
That's not correct, or no, you did not want to testify?
I did not want to testify, Your Honor.
And have you talked about that with your lawyers today?
Yes,
Have you talked about it with them on more than one occasion?
several, yes.
And did they answer any questions you had about whether or not you should testify and address any concerns you had about doing one thing or the other?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And do you need any more time with them before you answer?
he didn't want a speedy trial. They just didn't file the papers to get it later.
I question in a few minutes about whether this is your final decision. Do you need any more time with them?
Take a minute.
All right. So he kept Mr. Larson. If he
That kept me up
You can take them to the
till
jury.
4 in the morning, so it was a little annoying. Well, that was faster than expected.
It sure was.
Anyone have kept an eye on the Blake Lively Baldoni hearing?
What is it exactly anyway?
Well, I can show you. We don't know because it's New York, so it's just the outside of the courtroom.
Oh.
I hate it when
Yeah.
they put it up and we're gonna cover this, and then there's nothing.
Yeah, because it's not going to be inside because they don't do
Yeah.
any inside stuff. in
That's
Europe.
so stupid. Why is Brandon still hung over too many White Claws? Well, he's getting older. I haven't seen him all weekend. I saw him Friday. No, that's true. Not true. I saw him in someone else's chat. But he's getting older, you know. Well, now I have to do a new poll. If Dennis has rested.
Griffith, you've had just a few minutes, I assume, as long as you wanted to talk some more with your lawyers about this, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did they answer any additional questions or concerns that you have?
They did, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions of me about your right to testify versus your right to remain silent?
No, Your Honor.
And it is your right to remain silent, and I'll be telling the jury that they're not to be concerned by that or view it as an admission of guilt. But one thing I need to make certain of is that you understand that this is your choice in this case. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
There are many things your lawyers can do without your permission, things they can do that you disagree with, even things that you speak up and tell me you don't want them to do, but not this. You understand?
Hey, talk about the
They
devil.
explain that to you, that no matter what they think,
Aw,
it's your decision.
Yes, Your Honor.
there he is.
Now, they are supposed to give you some advice and
Biggest
counsel about
appointment
what they
is that
think you should do.
Too
Are you
hurty.
satisfied with the advice and counsel they've given you?
I am.
And today, are you under the influence of anything, drugs, alcohol, or medicine?
No, Your Honor.
And any concerns?
Why
related
doesn't
to
any defendant ever
competency?
said, "I wish"?
Have any of those arisen over the weekend, Mrs. Armstrong?
No.
Mr. Hendry?
No, Your Honor.
And has anyone, including either of your lawyers, promised you anything or threatened you to keep you off the witness stand?
No, Your Honor.
This is your choice and your choice alone,
I know, Your Honor.
is it?
Yes.
And you do not want to testify?
I do not.
Anything else you want on the record,
No, sir.
Mr. Hendry?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, okay, we can have the jury. I find that your choice is freely, knowingly, and intelligently made, and that it's made upon the advice of competent counsel.
And Your Honor, we're not raising additional argument on judgment of acquittal, but we would maintain our previous motion.
Same rule.
No, defendants mostly never testify. If you go look it up, most people who testify will actually be found guilty.
Because then they base it on if they like you or not.
Yeah,
Not the
because
facts.
if you F up, oh, he clearly did it, even though it's just maybe you are very nervous or you have a weird way of sitting, or so that's why you see in most every case the defendant will never testify in a criminal case. No, he's not a good kid. And again, I know you're arguing a lot in chat. He's a broken egg, but did he unalive those parents because he just had a bad day, or did they push him? Again, everything we have heard is him being calm, collected, saying, "Don't put me back with her," and her saying, "I'm gonna go to him." But we don't know what happened in the house. That's the big problem for me, that we don't. There were injuries that could kind of allude to a struggle, but I don't know. I still think he'll be found guilty.
Yeah. I mean, they both had injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the jury's going to find him guilty. I don't think they should, though.
Well, then just put in years. Yes, they claimed that she came at him.
Yeah. Well, she showed up to the house in a very aggressive manner, first of all. And then once they went inside, yeah, they said there was a scuffle. She was clearly mad.
Yeah.
If you watch those videos on Friday, she was screaming at the top of her lungs, talking about, I'm coming over there and you're going to have hell to pay.
Yeah, I think I would really have liked, if I wanted the state to cement this, they should have had some mental professionals talking about Collin's state. I don't understand why there's no medical psychological profiling on him. Everyone is wrong, and I do not agree to disagree. Well, I agree to disagree, and I run the channel. And you know, Zach, it doesn't matter what you think. I won't read your chats. So, boo-hoo, sad to be you. I disagree to disagree. Yeah, you're a disagreeable fella.
Yep.
Women haters are so easy to pick up on. I think you have to explain that one to me.
Yeah.
If it's me you're alluding to, I'm going to call my 2 daughters and testify that I don't hate women.
Well, we know what happened that day, and that day she was mad because he didn't want to help hang something when he told her there was no stud in the wall to hang the bookshelf or whatever that she wanted to hang.
No, that was the day before. That day she got out of bed, started calling him, "You're back by 10 a.m. or I'll call the police on you."
Yeah, but that was what she was upset about, and then she wanted him to leave. He left, and then she instantly was like, "No, come back." So.
And who grabbed the knife? You tell me. I wasn't at the house. They claim she did it. The other side claim he did it. We don't know.
Yeah. When you don't have those facts, it's really hard to send somebody away for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
For me, personally. When you don't know what went on in that house.
Yeah.
We can all make up stories and speculate.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people are basing their opinion off the fact that, unfortunately, you know, he did the same thing to his father. So then you already have this predetermined thought about what happened. And it's just like, no one knows. And when you don't know things, it's hard. How are you? I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Zach has a daughter as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are.
I think Zach is more of a troll than a woman hater, but I don't know. Yeah, Zach, you drive all the women crazy, and not in the good way. It's the lack of frolicking that goes on in your establishment. Yeah, he has a daughter because she just shot her first buck 2 weeks ago. And by buck, that was her boyfriend, and Zach said, "You better do it or I'll do it."
Please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying, although you have heard all the evidence in this case, you still have not heard the arguments of the lawyers or the instructions on the law. So remember, it's not time to think about how you might decide the case or to formulate any opinions about the merits of the case. Also remember to avoid the news as I previously instructed you, and to avoid talking about the case with anyone or looking anything up. Now,
all men are great as well.
We'll be
yes.
receiving this case for deliberations. I want to remind you that a jury may deliberate as much or as little as it feels necessary to that particular jury to do so. But what that means is that it's possible your deliberations could go past 5 o'clock if that's what you all agree to. It could be earlier than that, but the point is, you may want to let those who would normally be expecting you after 5 o'clock, that if you're not home, that the jury has chosen to continue deliberating. So just keep that in mind. Also, if you've been bringing your lunch during jury service, you may still do that, but I want to advise you that the court will be providing you with lunch tomorrow because I anticipate you will begin your deliberations around lunchtime. And that way you won't have to separate because you won't be allowed to deliberate unless you're all together at the table in the jury room. That will facilitate your deliberations beginning as soon as possible. So I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 8:30.
All
We're just gonna wait till tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
Is it
that was easy.
ridiculous? But that's fine.
Yeah, I have an HOA meeting today too, so it's actually quite
Yeah.
good.
Works for you, yeah.
Yeah. Sucks for you, then you have to sit and work and don't have me to talk to
Oh.
make you happy.
Oh.
I know you were sitting there thinking, oh, I want to hang with the Baxter. He's such a cool guy.
Always. Yeah. Of course. I love you.
Did you want to break before we take up jury instructions?
Whatever the court's desire.
I'm ready now.
All right. I want to make sure everyone gets a sufficient break before we start that, especially the court order. So we'll just take 5 minutes for a comfort break.
Then this is tomorrow at 2:30. Well, that's nice. It's already done. So glad Mandy Strong is here to fill in for Rubia.
I miss Rubia.
Yeah, I miss Rubia too. She was here on my birthday stream. Well, that was like Zach's love life. Sweet, short, well, not that sweet. Short, annoying, and filled with hatred.
Yeah.
Come on, Polly. Polly. Defense has arrested. Did they convince you he is innocent? 74% says no. 25% says yes. So it's going to be interesting to see the closing arguments tomorrow. If we go back and think about the opening statements by the lawyers, state was he was a crazy, out of control kid who's already been suspected, who has already unalived someone once, and did it because he just couldn't stand his mother. She was trying to live with him, and he just didn't want that, so he went off the rails and stabulated her. Then you have the defense opening that she was the one who was antagonizing him, always want to keep him under control, trying to control him by taking away all his stuff, lying about everything. It's one of those where it's going to be interesting to see, because we know now that there's no evidence, because they also mentioned that there would be evidence that he had threatened to kill her multiple times. The cops said we didn't really feel like he was going to do that. It seemed more like he wanted to stay at the institution. The granddad said he said it, but had no proof of it. The videos, because they said there were 4 videos about it, they were never provided to court. We know she was very aggressive in what we heard. That she was not truthful about he needed to be home, he needed to do this, he was breaking curfew, he was breaking everything. They had shared custody over him exactly because they had a bad relationship with each other. It's going to be interesting to see closing arguments. Well, he did used to live with his dad, but his dad isn't here anymore, so that's why he went back. Hope Brandon has had a good weekend. But all in all, a tragic case that probably stems from really, really bad upbringing from all parts. The mom, the son. Do I think he did it intentionally? I'm not convinced. Do I think that he planned it and it's murder one? No. I could probably swing it to either manslaughter or murder two. I'm not sure I could swing it to murder one as they have charged him.
I agree.
Do I think he's going to be found guilty? I'll put it a very high likelihood he will be found guilty in this, and will then spend the rest of his life as a resident of a government institution in Florida. Is it the correct verdict? It's always the correct verdict if the jury finds him guilty, but I think murder one is too much. Murder one is too much in this case.
And as we know in Florida, life is life.
Yeah, life is life. Na 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 na. It's hard because we get all these emotions in and say, well, he did it before. Yeah, but also she could just have stayed away. But that's the same argument as, well, she shouldn't have had that dress on when you're talking about rape cases. Wasn't she allowed to go to her son's residency? He was underage. He was alone. She was, but they also had a really bad history together, and he was there to get away from her because they had so many arguments. So again, I have a hard time saying. Yeah, and as Sue, Oline Red points out, he would hurt her if she attacked him again. But again, that's from putting a knee to her back or stabulating her. That's a big difference. And I think the lack of fighting, evidence of fighting in the house is probably gonna be the thing that can hurt him the most, because we know the house looked pristine except from that one little area. And it's a visual thing as well. They have seen the pictures in there. If the house had been trashed, and he said, well, we were fighting and accidentally it happened because I was taking it away from her. I think that could probably have worked better, but we know that the house looked perfect except for that. So I think he's going to go away, but I don't think I could swing it to murder one.
No.
So that's how I think. And no matter what they will find, I hope that someone will try and fix this kid, because he is clearly broken. Clearly broken.
Well, even let's just say it was self-defense on both parts. That's still, regardless if he defended himself, he's still going to have mental issues because of that. So he needs some therapy big time.
Yeah, and unaliving both your parents could also, to me, show all of his upbringing have been hell. And he will have to, if he's not found guilty, which I believe he will be, if he will ever try and have a life with a family and stuff like that, he will need massive counseling just to know how to have a life. Because as I said earlier, sadly, a bad upbringing tends to be cyclical. You're not taught the skills you need to be in a relationship, to raise kids, to be a parent, and most of the time that'll go on to the next generation, the next generation, and the next generation again. And that's sadly how it is. And
Yeah.
and I think the grandma was right. We have a massive mental health, not just in America, but in entire Western world. We have a massive healthcare problem because we decided in the 80s that, well, they should just live among the rest of us and get some pills. And that's not working. And we should, no matter, I know I don't talk politics, but it doesn't matter if you're red, blue, white, yellow, green, whatever party politics you're on. This is the plague we have running amok in society now, is we don't take care of people who clearly needs severe help. We just say, well, we'll bring you down so you don't go absolutely cray cray and send you back home, and no one cares if you take your medicine or you get your treatments. And then when you blow up the next time, we'll put you in for 2 days, and then you'll send you home again. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because like
We haven't
I
heard
mean,
any testimony about his mental problems. None at all.
no, he has
We know
never
both of them
actually
have been
seen
Baker
anybody.
acted.
Yeah, they'd been Baker acted, but he never was like,
No, he wasn't in treatment.
yeah, he wasn't in any kind of treatment or on any medication.
So yeah, that's again and again, both of these people probably should have had some kind of marriage counselor, and that's kind of, I keep thinking about that young CPS police detective. It seemed like she tried to do something, and the higher ups put it down because she was really in. She wanted to check up on them, and she thought she had solutions for them, how they could live together but still have these, okay, I need a safe space I can go to when everything blows up. And it seemed like that she wasn't allowed to do what she wanted to do. And I think that's, as I said, that's the big problem today is we give these often very young women the job of taking care of children in really bad households. And if they come up with the wrong plan because it's too expensive, we just say, nah, it's fine. More than anything, this is a system failure. Because this could have been prevented if they had the sufficient counseling, the sufficient surveillance, the sufficient help to just live together. Someone who could tell the mom, when Collin does this, it's because he needs some space. When your mom does this, it's because she's afraid of losing you. All of these things. And I really, really think this is the big takeaway from this case is they were failed. She got knocked up when she fled from an institution at 13. He unalived his dad at 15. And what did they do? Just place him in the home with the mom. Instantly, everything blew up. And what did they do? Just kept driving him back to the same house where everything blew up. It's the good old saying, if you try and try again and expect a different result, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Pig love from Danny.
Oh, Danny.
I don't know what Danny has pig love. Jamie, you were mentioned yesterday on Ralphie's channel.
Why?
Because your dog ate her remote control.
That puppy.
Yeah.
He is a hoot.
where's Bio Granddad at? He was the guy from New Mexico who said he could talk to his daughter. She was in the courtroom. Who also didn't talk to the grandma anymore, and there was something there as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
The court did say that he was allowed to be at his grandma's house. They had.
Yeah.
The court did say that.
Yeah, he was allowed to be at the grandma's house. They had shared custody over him. She has 6 different houses, and he stayed at one of them. But also, he had to hide it there because it's in a retirement community, so he wasn't really allowed to be there. But that's the grandma's problem. That's an HOA problem. But
Yeah.
But he was allowed to be there. He didn't break his probation. He did. There was a lot of things put in that wasn't real about that, because he was allowed to be there. The mom claimed he wasn't, but we know from the police officers that wasn't true. The lead detective said, no, none of that is true. He was allowed to be there. They had shared custody. Absolutely fine. He didn't break probation in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the whole her being able to do whatever because she had custody. Well, yeah, but the grandma did too. So and even the cops knew he was there, and everybody knew he was told to stay there. And then I seen people saying that Colin's grandpa was afraid of him. That's not right. What Jess said, grandma's husband didn't say he was afraid of Collin. He said he was afraid of Kathy being over all the time and doing stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't Collin he was afraid of.
And yes, the police had told him, stay over there, and Caddy, don't go there. So again, no, they were at the Keys that day. She has 6 different. I think she kind of has some rental or something, because she had 6 different properties, is what they said. I believe in opening statements or something like that. And he had access to. It was a double wide in a like a retirement HOA.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of stuff. But you can't not have mental issues if you unalive both your parents. And I know, well, technically he doesn't have blah blah. You will have something. And again, well, you just want to put everyone on pills. You just said that's the big problem. Yeah, I know I am a hypocrite, but you can't spell bacon without hypocrite. But I'm just thinking you need a severe amount of counseling if you have unalived both your parents. Even if they attacked you and it was legal self-defense and all of that, you would still need a whole heck of a lot of counseling. I know people who wore green and had to do stuff. They needed counseling after, because even though someone pew-pewed at them and they had to pew-pew back, unaliving someone takes a toll. Not for Jamie. She does it in her garage every Sunday. But I still think that this kid will, no matter where he ends up, he will be a broken egg for life. It's a thing. Yeah. If my parents acted like her when I was 17, I'd run away too. Yeah. That's another thing. All of this could have been avoided if they had figured some plan out with the government. But the government just said, go back to your mom. Well, we were fighting when you picked me up yesterday. Yeah, you'll probably be fine today. And yeah, it's so easy to just put the blame on the system. I don't do that. I think he shouldn't have unalived her. I know she wasn't a big gal. He probably could have subdued her. I'm not sure she even, because we haven't heard anything about Prince. So I'm not even sure she had the stabulator. Again, he's a man. She's a 39-year-old lady. Even though she has a cray-cray strength and is going absolutely cray-cray, take her, restrain her, call the popo.
Mhm.
But that's not what happened, sadly. That's what I would have done. And apparently that was what he did earlier when she punched him, was just to give her back. But I don't know. We're going to see closing arguments tomorrow.
Yeah.
How do you like your blue-eyed boy now, Mr. Death? Who's Mr. Death? He could have, or she could have. Again, we don't know. What we know is all of you are arguing with each other in chat and hating on each other, and Jamie cries when people hate. So we're going to end the stream so you can't hate each other anymore, because it's not worth it. What's worth it is coming back tomorrow and see the closing arguments. And everyone has calmed down a little bit, and we don't have to yell anymore. Have a fun day. Hasta la taco.
Bye.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Go
All right, I'm in love.
back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't have cared?
No,
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
no,
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
probably did. Everybody has.
So there-
Everybody has.